A man questions Lady Wu Yue if she has decided what to do with her child. She mentions that her child is going to die if he stays with her. With a gentle caress on his face, Wu Yue sadly apologizes to her child. But her child happens to be the last remaining divine tier superpower holder. Wu Yue senses that people are seeking out her child, and they have almost arrived, so she quickly hands over the child to the man and asks him to send him to a place where no one would be able to find him. Thereafter, the child's abilities were forcefully locked, and he was sent away from his mother. The scene then shifts to the same man explaining to Shan Yue, the child, that he has to go back to protect his mother. He further advises Shan Yue to rely on his powers more to survive in this dreadful place. As it turns out, Shan Yue was left in the penal colony, which is entirely filled with sin. At the same time, hundreds of men were gathered from both sides, ready to fight with each other. The scale was very grand, and it could be seen that this war alone might shape the future of this world. The men from the opposition side calmly ask Wu Yue to turn herself in and come with them. This led Wu Yue to assure the opposition that they were going to face severe consequences for their actions in the coming future. Simultaneously, we get a glimpse of the penal colony where Shan Yue is getting beaten by a bunch of goons. They remind Shan Yue that he is in their territory and asks him to go somewhere else if he wants his life to end so badly. It appears that Shan Yue has already given up on his life. Later, as he is making his way peacefully, he gets stopped by a bunch of goons. They tell him to give them his food, but receive no response. Suddenly, Shan Yue tries to escape and begins running away. This young boy had to face the worst life one could ever get, and he went through a lot of pain to get to the point where he is today. 18 years ago, a prophecy foretold the rise of a boy with a black ring who would challenge the established order of the gifted world. This was a serious prophecy, one that would transform the world and rewrite the rules of survival. But the peacefulness of Shan Yue's life is abruptly shattered when his true identity is exposed coincidentally during the live broadcast of a competition. The top-tier forces of the gifted world, seeing him as a formidable threat, dispatch an assassination squad to eliminate him. They believe that Shan Yue's existence could destabilize their carefully maintained hierarchy and power structures. Unbeknownst to Shan Yue, 5 gifted individuals have also been preparing for this moment since their childhood. These protectors, each with unique abilities and unwavering loyalty, begin to leave to carry out a resolve that they made many years ago with Wu Yue to safeguard the last descendant of the divine tier. This also marks the beginning of the fight for superpowers. In this world of rings, where power and status dictate fate, Shan Yue now has to navigate the dangers that come with his lineage and the prophecy that surrounds him. The struggle for survival and dominance begins. The scene starts in the penal colony, a city so run down that you can feel its heavy, gloomy atmosphere from far away. Broken roads and bloodstains on the sidewalks are common. In the heart of this city, we meet a young man named Shan Yue, who seems to have big dreams. Staring at a dimming billboard among the crumbling buildings, the young man reads an ad about a deadly ring fight called The Living Corpses, a match that put one's life on stake. However, there is something in particular that catches his eye. He sees that the promised prize to win the match is 3 million won. His blue eyes gleam after realizing that with such an amount, he can achieve the thing he desires most in this rotten world. However, his daydream is shattered when someone claps him hard on the back, asking what he is looking at. Panicked, perhaps reflexively, Shan Yue tries to cover the billboard with his skinny body, and sure enough, it is futile. Meanwhile, a close friend of his, named Chun, peeks from beside Shan Yue and sees that he has been staring at a billboard of the Living Corpses Club. To him, it makes no sense to pit humans against each other and watch it like a bloody chess game. He believes that the idea of gaining hope by risking their lives is a foolish move. Chun believes that their lives are treated like tools in a game anyway. He then turns quickly, asking Shan Yue not to think for even a moment about joining that crazy game. Nervously, Shan Yue shifts the conversation by asking if Chun has gotten food for them. With a proud demeanor, he opens his cloak, revealing 2 boxes of food and a hand that has been replaced with a prosthetic. After taking a look, Shan Yue smiles, but his smile quickly fades as he notices the worsening condition of Chun's artificial hand. This also happens to be the reason why Shan Yue is so desperate to take part in the challenge and win those 3 million won. It is to get a new prosthetic arm for his friend, Chun. Noticing Shan Yue's gaze, Chun quickly closes his cloak, realizing that they might get in trouble if someone sees the goods. He then begins to drag his younger friend home, knowing that staying out too long might endanger their lives. On their way home, a young guy and an old man, are seen fighting over a box, similar to the one Ah-chun carries. The young muscular manages to get a good enough grasp of the box to grab it from the hands of the old man. He then tells the old man that he won't be needing food since he has no teeth left to eat with. However, the old man still hopes to get his goods back, as he keeps pleading for the young guy to give back his stuff. However, the young guy tells the old man to give him money in exchange for the box and assures him that he will hold his end of the bargain. Seeing this scene unfold in front of them, the two decide not to take this route ever again and decide to continue their way from the other side. However, as they are about to leave, Ah-chun asks Shan Yue to wait, causing him to realize what he is about to do. Ah-chun then tosses one of the food boxes that he got toward the old man and asks him to quickly head for home, advising him not to stay outside for too long. The two friends then decide to head home. Meanwhile, the old man makes his way back to his home, where he is encountered by the same men who looted him a few moments ago. They seem to be aware that the old man still has some good on him. With a dark tone, they ask the old man to hand them over the goods if he doesn't want to die, leaving him no choice but to comply. In the penal colony, people fighting for food and money is quite common, so much so that everyday fights are going on. As for the ones that cannot defend themselves, they just wait for their time to arrive so their lives can end. This is a place where humanity and sin appear to have no place. The people living in this dump are those abandoned by God. Along the way, Shan Yue jokingly tells Ah-chun that he has given away his share of meals, so he will be starving that night, leading Ah-chun to start buttering Shan Yue. When the two close friends arrive at their resting place, Shan Yue tells Ah-chun about what he inquired regarding the jurisdiction. He has discovered that Ah-chun can get his prosthetic fixed, and he will be able to send an application there. Moreover, Ah-chun can even go there and live as a part-time worker. The only downside to this is that the two friends won't be able to see each other as often. After speaking for so long and receiving no response, Shan Yue questions Ah-chun if he even listening to him. To his surprise, Ah-chun has already fallen asleep on the couch after too much exhaustion. Shan Yue looks sadly at his friend and goes on to cover him with a blanket after taking off his prosthetic arm. Shan Yue then goes on to hold Ah-chun's prosthetic hand, which is in a condition that shouldn't be used anymore. He remembers that he is the cause of his friend's suffering. A few years ago, Shan Yue insisted on fetching a food box himself, asking Ah-chun to wait. But his decision turned out to be wrong. He had no idea that as soon as he left his friend, someone would ambush Ah-chun from behind, trapping him in a dark alley. His joyful smile is replaced with a look of horror when he sees Ah-chun crying for help. Shan Yue seems to have forgotten that the penal colony is not for the faint of heart and is a place with high survival instinct. Moreover, it becomes quite difficult for Shan Yue to live comfortably after that day, as he witnesses Ah-chun's hand getting eaten by a man who even offers Shan Yue to have some of it. Regret for leaving Ah-chun alone makes him experience recurring nightmares. He realizes that everything would have been different if he had not left Ah-chun alone that day. Determined, he tells the already asleep Ah-chun to wait for him. He looks over at Ah-chun in silence and proceeds to gently place the prosthetic hand on the table, telling himself that no matter what he is going to fix what he broke. He tells himself that he is going to get those 3 million won from the Living Corpses challenge and get Ah-chun a new prosthetic arm. This story begins in a place called Heavenly, a world filled with superpowers determined by a ring. The place is divided into two vastly different poles, which are jurisdiction, where the superpowered people live, and the penal colony, a dumping ground. Every birth undergoes a series of tests to determine their ring level, which records their personal information and abilities. The rings themselves are categorized as special, which lies in the gold category, high, which lies in the silver category, common, which lies in the bronze category, and low, which lies in the gray category. The worst of all are the outcasts without any superpowers, dubbed as evil, wearing pitch-black rings around their necks. Meanwhile, to pay for his mistake, Shan Yue enters the bloody battle of the living corpses. In a hurry, Shan Yue heads to the bus departure point that is supposed to take the black rings to the fight. Soon, when his turn arrives to scan his ring to retrieve his personal information, he can be seen as extremely nervous. As Shan Yue is about to scan, somehow, an error occurs, and the scanner appears to have a malfunction, as it cannot read anymore, leaving even the guards confused. Panic surges back into Shan Yue, as he explains that this has been common every time he has goods, and that it has been like this for years. The guard then questions Shan if this has happened before, while the other reminds Shan Yue that it does not matter in the penal colony, but if one wants to enter the jurisdiction, they have to be cautious with this sort of thing. He doesn't know the reason, but his ring always malfunctions during scans. The guards then decide to give it another try. Someone shouts at him from behind, telling him to step back and not mess around if it's not working for him. However, Shan Yue stands firm, giving no response. Suddenly, a hard slap is aimed at him from behind. Luckily, for some reason, he dodges just in time, turning and glaring at the man with his sapphire eyes. Meanwhile, the people around notice some disturbance and grow curious regarding what's going on. The man grows annoyed by Shan Yue's boldness, who then turns around and asks the guard to scan him once again, stating that he has to go to the jurisdiction. Seeing Shan Yue ignore him, the man grows even more infuriated and attempts to kick him as hard as he can from behind. But again, somehow, Shan Yue easily avoids it without even looking and completes his conversation with the guards. Seeing Shan Yue dodging so effortlessly impresses the two guards greatly. Not only that, this scene catches the attention of another man sitting and smoking at the end of the sidewalk. He sees Shan Yue's dodging talent, and for some reason, it piques his interest. It appears that this mysterious guy is an important person. Meanwhile, the man realizes that he should not be underestimating Shan Yue, as he is someone with talent. Meanwhile, the guards tell the arrogant guy that his information has been re-uploaded and that he is allowed to get on the bus now. As he is about to enter the bus, one of the guards explains to him that it's not too late to kill Shan Yue when he reaches the arena. At the same time, the important man, accompanied by two other men, discusses how the competitions are tough when there are both strong and weak participants. One of the men comments how the rating will go up after the tragic death of Shan Yue, while not even considering him as a worthy competitor. Thereafter, the man with a cigarette tells the man who recently commented that it's people like him that leave those with no superpowers being labeled as evil and left to be played by the ones with abilities. The man stubs out his cigarette roughly, tosses it aside, and gets up to leave. He has a very untidy appearance, a face that has quite a lot of wrinkles, yet his body suggests that he is someone whose look betrays his age. He then slowly begins to leave, while the two men constantly ask him to reveal his identity. At first, they thought that he was just an exile like them. Seeing that it's becoming hard for them to recognize him, the man proceeds to lift his hair, revealing his face. The two men are taken by surprise to see that the man is none other than Qin Tian, someone who is the streak holder for the living corpses. Qin Tian is 40 years of age, and he has already won the living corpses competition 8 times in a row. He is a legend in the ring fights. As Qin Tian boards the bus, it drives off. Meanwhile, in jurisdiction, in the warehouse system building, a man stands in the middle of the electronic data storage warehouse. His hands are busy typing on the keyboard as if he is searching for something frantically. He grins with satisfaction after some time, and his eyes begin to get dark with ambition. He stares at the screen and exclaims how the man's eyes are just like his mother's. It then becomes confirmed that he is looking at the picture of Shan Yue. The man with the silver ring laughs loudly and wonders if is really the child of God. Back on the bus, Shan Yue, who has no understanding of the dangers he will face in the future, daydreams, looking towards the road while thinking of Ah Chun. He wonders if Ah Chun is going to be angry if he is not back before dawn. Unfortunately, the man in the yellow jacket who quarreled with him earlier demands his dignity back. The man quickly thrusts his short knife towards Shan Yue. Swiftly, the blue-eyed teenager lowers his seat to a different angle and kicks the wrist of the man beside him, causing the knife to fly and lodge into the bus ceiling. Shan Yue leaps from his seat, lowering into a stance. However, Shan Yue is conflicted about whether he should waste his energy by fighting the man or not. But what he fears more is revealing his true strength and drawing all eyes to him. In this situation of panic, Shan Yue is luckily saved by Qin Tian, who interferes between the two. Qin Tian swiftly strikes the enraged man in just 2 seconds. He and Shan Yue then stare at each other for a moment, when suddenly Qin Tian tells Shan Yue to win his scheduled fight on that night and to meet him in the finals. Shan Yue looks at him nervously, not answering, then slowly returns to his seat. The bus speeds up, passing through a tunnel. A blinding beam of light reflects in Shan Yue's eyes. He gazes at the city that is so vibrant, alive, and vastly different from Penal Colony. This is the place where the superpowers reside jurisdiction. Soon after, they arrive at the arena building. A statue of the Grim Reaper Angel stands majestically in front of it, appropriately depicting the nature of the fight they will face. Even their battle arena is no less terrifying. A ring with an angel statue above it, seemingly watching over their souls, and large flames surrounding it, ensure no participant can escape. The arena is filled with the noisy chatter of wealthy spectators, as if the fight for life is an entertaining spectacle for them. Shan Yue walks down the hallway, observing his surroundings. His eyes lock onto the bodies of the defeated, piled into carts and discarded. Even in death, those from the penal colony are treated as trash. Shan Yue observes in silence while his skin is crawling. While Shan Yue focuses on his life and death struggle, in a quieter place, a large door slowly opens. Purple electrical currents flicker from its gaps. A servant bows low and reveals to his master that the day of the prophecy has arrived. He tells the master that it is time for him to begin just journey. In no time, the door opens, and a man in a suit walks out with a determined stride. Back at the arena where Shan Yue has just arrived, in the preparation room he appears to be getting ready. After surveying the arena, it can be easily determined that the place is rotten to the core. At this moment, all the participants of the challenge happen to have weapons. One of the guys has a knife that he chose on his own, the other has brass knuckles, and one even has a dagger. The other two have a club and a rod, whereas Shan Yue, a skinny boy, has no weapon at all. As it turns out, there is a rule in the competition. The rule is that there will be 7 participants, but only 6 weapons. It appears that before the match starts, the audience is given the right to give each of the participants a rating based on their appearances, essentially estimating their winning rate. Based on these ratings, the participants are given corresponding weapons, and those with a higher rating are prioritized. Naturally, the person with the highest rating gets the best weapon, and the one with the lowest rating gets to go inside the arena with bare hands. However, Shan Yue finds no issue with this, as he believes that no one will guard themselves against an opponent with a rating as low as him, and is bare-handed as a cherry on top. Mostly the participants will only focus on the one with the highest winning rate, or so Shan Yue believes. Looking at Qin Tian, he is concerned as Qin Tian looks to be very strong. He even feels jealous, thinking that it wouldn't be hard for Qin Tian to survive in exile due to the immense power that he possesses. Suddenly, a long-haired person appears in front of Shan Yue, questioning him if he is familiar with Qin Tian. After receiving no response, the man reminds Shan Yue that he is talking to him. It appears that he is the one with the highest winning rate among the 7 participants. His winning rate is at a staggering 30.5%. Meanwhile, Shan Yue responds and confirms that he is not familiar with Shan Yue, leading him to question if he is secretly strong or has any hidden skills, since the man is aware that Qin Tian does not meddle with weak figures. However, Shan Yue reveals that he doesn't even have a weapon to begin with, let alone being secretly powerful. This man also holds the highest rated weapon. Understandably, judging by his thug-like appearance, he gets a pistol. Although this might appear as unfair, these are the rules of the arena. He proceeds to place the gun on Shan Yue's abdomen, warning him not to lie to him, or else he will have to face grave consequences. Soon the commencement of the challenge is announced as the man wishes good luck to Shan Yue while grinning with a strong murderous aura. The rottenness of this game doesn't stop there, as the participants are given special devices to ensure the proper status of the competition. Before entering the arena, they are given several mini-bombs to make the match more interesting. Although the participants did not sign up for this, and they even appear hesitant about these mini-bombs, they have no choice other than to obey the rules and regulations of the competition. Shan Yue pockets the bombs and hurriedly enters the arena with unwavering determination. An announcement begins to circulate that only one person can leave this arena alive. Moreover, there is going to be a 15-minute countdown, and the participants are advised to kill each other within that time. This place is not for the faint of hearts or the ones with sympathy. If they decide to show mercy toward the opponents, then they would be nothing less than dead meat. Outside the arena, the less wealthy watch while gambling, betting large sums of money that Shan Yue, the teenager with number 4, will be the first to die in the arena. They notice that number 5 is looking at Shan Yue with a deadly intent, and they begin to feel confident in their bet. But their expressions turn a bit surprised, seeing how the skinny boy easily dodges his opponent's attacks. He dodges left and right like a whirlwind, ducks low, and strikes his opponent's face with a punch. However, his punch has no effect, almost like a child's punch that doesn't hurt. This makes Shan Yue realize that he still cannot use his power. Even the opponent mentions that it doesn't hurt, followed by Shan Yue to explain that it's because he is thick-skinned. Seeing that, even the spectators and Qin Tian, who is watching, begin to sense something strange. Shan Yue appears strong because he manages to dodge, but his attacks have no strength at all. Seeing his boldness, the opponent begins to grow furious, but as he is about to charge toward Shan Yue, the true opponent emerges, the man in the yellow jacket who harbors a burning grudge against Shan Yue from the incident back on the bus. He swiftly kills the man in the green vest, by slitting his throat with a sharp sword, ensuring Shan Yue will be his sole prey. Thereupon, Shan Yue breaks into a cold sweat, staring at the blood-soaked man who stands before him. The man in yellow reminds Shan Yue how he humiliated him back on the bus, and now he has the perfect opportunity to get his revenge. 5 minutes have passed, 2 people have died, and another has become so desperate that he begs to be let out, which of course, will never happen. In the moment he cries for release, the bomb chip in his neck explodes, shattering him to pieces. This catches everyone's attention as they see that the participant was blown to pieces just because he wanted to quit. They soon continue to fight, realizing that the only way for them to leave is by winning this competition. Meanwhile, Shan Yue gets attacked by the man in yellow, prompting him to quickly divert his attention away from the dead participant and dodge his attack. He leaps, ducks, and even performs flips to stay alive. He retreats to maintain a safe distance and curses himself in frustration. All this time, he has only trained with Ah-chun, and while he has become adept at evading, his fighting skills are nearly non-existent. Despite Ah-chun's rigorous training, he has only improved in dodging, not in attacking. Nevertheless, to participate in this tournament, he has trained secretly every night in the cold, with unwavering determination. He clenches his fist before his chest, his pupils gleaming with courage as he proceeds to launch his punch. Alas, it is easily deflected, and he is thrown back with such force that the cracking of his bones is audible to everyone present in the arena. He struggles to regain his balance and stand as his movements grow shaky, causing his opponent to grin with satisfaction. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Shan Yue, in another place where he has left Ah-chun alone, the danger is approaching his friend. A man with a silver ring knocks on their door. Ah-chun hears the knock and inquires if it is Shan Yue. In the arena, the fight is going on with full effect. The present fighters are dodging and reflecting the attacks while Shan Yue is bent over, trying to catch his breath. He looks up for a moment and realizes something is coming his way. After focusing on it, he quickly realizes that a microbomb has been thrown right above him. As the bomb moves toward Shan Yue, the third man loads his gun and stands there with a grin on his face. It takes Shan Yue no time to realize that the man is fighter number 3, but before he can take any action to save himself from the bomb, it is already too late. Shan Yue's eyes widen as the third man shoots the bomb from afar, creating a significant explosion. Seeing this smart move, the crowd is mesmerized by his cunningness. They quickly realize why fighter number 3 is estimated to have the highest win rate for this challenge. Fortunately, Shan Yue manages to dodge the explosion just a bit as he begins to grasp for breath while feeling the burn somewhere on his body. Meanwhile, the third man is enraged to see Shan Yue dodging the attack even after he timed and aimed the explosion perfectly. However, the discovery shows that Shan Yue indeed dodged the explosion, but a few seconds too late as he sustains a severe injury to his head from the blast while the blood begins to drop down from his wound. Meanwhile, the man in the yellow jacket is gravely injured, yet he still decides to fight against the third man with all his might. He wastes no time in dashing toward the man, jumps at him, and manages to take him to the ground. During this, the gun falls from the hands of the third man and slides toward Shan Yue, who is still dazed by the head wound. But the third man doesn't struggle to gain the foothold back in this fight, as he manages to quickly shift the positions, now staying on top of the guy in the yellow jacket. The man in yellow tells Shan Yue that he will give him all the prize money of 3 million won if he shoots the third man, but Shan Yue is completely blacked out. The misery of the man in yellow ends as the guy on top of him plunges a knife into his heart, while referring to him as an idiot. He dies the next instant as the knife easily tears through his heart. The high-stakes gambler chuckles as he stands, glaring fiercely at Shan Yue, ready to kill him swiftly. But suddenly, the sound of a bullet echoes loudly through the air. Blood oozes from his heart as a remaining participant shoots him indiscriminately, while declaring that the 3 million prize is his. This unexpected event sends the arena into chaos, rumbling outside the building. Their match is also being broadcast live, since they are mere entertainment for the people of the jurisdiction district. A man in a suit observes the match, strolling casually with his hands in his pockets. When he sees Shan Yue's face on the big screen, he raises his palm and begins exerting a crackling purple electricity, telling Shan Yue not to die on him. Simultaneously, all the lights in the area shatter spontaneously. Several electrical systems in the city short circuit, and even electronic devices, traffic lights, and other connected equipment fail and malfunction on a massive scale, including the arena, which relies entirely on electricity. Meanwhile, The man appears to be satisfied with what he has carried out recently. With a grin on his face, he begins to walk away. Back at the arena, the show is about to begin, as Shan Yue tells the last remaining fighter that he cannot let him have those 3 million, indicating that he wants to win the fight. However, the man wastes no time to remind Shan Yue that it's just the 2 of them that are left. He then emphasizes to Shan Yue how he is at a disadvantage since he is not the one with a pistol in his hands. He questions Shan Yue what he is going to do in such a situation. Although Shan Yue realizes that he is at a very huge disadvantage here, he is still not willing to give up. The first man, with a pistol aimed at Shan Yue, stands so close that escape seems impossible. It appears that Shan Yue's demise has come since he seemingly has lost all his strength and appears helpless in this situation. In an instant, Shan Yue shuts his eyes, honing his instincts. He feels the air brush against his skin as he senses that the bullet is very close to him. As he opens his eyes, he shifts slightly to the right and ends up dodging the bullet successfully. The crowd immediately begin to boo number 1 for missing a shot from that close. Meanwhile, he is also confused as to how Shan Yue was able to dodge a bullet from this close. His curiosity peaks as he questions Shan Yue if he is really the Black Ring. Shan Yue's head throbs due to the pain that's blurring his vision and making him feel dizzy, but he knows the fight is not yet over. The man sees this as an opportunity to deal with Shan Yue once and for all, so he begins to charge toward him. With the last of his reflexes, Shan Yue manages to seize the knife from the man's hand. The world now seems to move in slow motion for Shan Yue, as he can read his opponent's movements and predict them, swiftly bringing the blade to the man's throat. Normally, anyone would end the challenge right here by ending his opponent, but not Shan Yue, as he is taken aback by the formidable force that's approaching the arena. Yet another force approaches a powerful presence that tightens the tension in the arena. Within seconds, all the lights go out, leaving an eerie darkness. The audience is bewildered, except for Qin Tian. He senses something is amiss and realizes that this ability clearly stems from someone with superpowers. His intuition tells him that the pink-haired boy is tied to these strange events, and indeed the bomb on Shan Yue's neck was released due to the electrical disturbance. The man is relieved that he has been saved when suddenly the referee arrives and tells the 2 that their fight has been paused due to power failure issues. The winner is yet to be determined as the 2 begin to make their way to the preparation room. Along the way, Shan Yue is met by the man with purple energy who greets him and knocks him out. The man then begins to carry him away without hesitation, ignoring the fearful glances of guards and other participants. Inside the car, he uses his powers to wake Shan Yue up while utilizing a strong electric shock. Shan Yue awakes, startled to find a stranger beside him. He knows this man possesses high-level superpowers. Slowly, he reaches for the car door handle, ready to flee, before the man introduces himself as Liu Jichuan. The name freezes Shan Yue as he quickly recalls that Jichuan is one of the 8 most powerful noble families. This means the man is a bearer of the Golden Ring. Proudly, Liu Jichuan opens his collar, revealing the golden ring encircling his neck. Thereafter, Jichuan tells Shan Yue not to even think about escaping since his life is now his responsibility, all the while referring to Shan Yue as the child of divinity. There is a legend that speaks of a tier higher than a special grade. This tier is known as the Divine Tier. A Divine Tier wielder possesses strength equivalent to hundreds of special grades combined, a power that can almost be likened to that of a god. In the car, Shan Yue reveals that he has heard of the legend of the Divine Tier named Liu Songting. But before he can finish, Jichuan interferes and completes Songting's name while explaining that he is his great-grandfather. Rumors have it that only Songting's children can be divine, making Shan Yue wonder if Jichuan is his grandson. However, Jichuan debunks this rumor while explaining that the legends that are told about this matter aren't exactly accurate. Jichuan explains that since the First Awakening, there have only been 3 individuals with this power. The first is his great-grandfather, Liu Songting. The second is Lady Wu Yue, with the powers of precognition and immortality. And the third individual is the one who vanished as soon as his identity as a Divine Tier owner is revealed. Thereafter, Jichuan goes on to make a groundbreaking revelation, telling Shan Yue that he is the son of Lady Wu Yue. This makes Shan Yue chuckle awkwardly as he questions Jichuan if he is not of the evil tier and asks him not to toy with him. Hearing this revelation, Shan Yue is ready to believe anything else instead of what he is just told. It is simply impossible for him to comprehend that he is someone worthy of being called the child of divinity. Yet suddenly his blue eyes widen as memories of his dark dreams flood back. He has always seen an unfamiliar woman gazing at him, causing him to wonder if he has been dreaming about his mother all along. As Shan Yue is lost in his thoughts, Jichuan quickly brings him back to reality, understanding that he might have a lot of questions after such a grand revelation. But Jichuan emphasizes that he needs to ensure Shan Yue's safety. Jichuan reminds Shan Yue that his face has been broadcasted all over the jurisdiction area, and that it will take no time to reach the Celestial City. He further explains to Shan Yue that it won't be long before those who want him dead will start appearing. With a laugh, Jichuan remarks that a new war is about to begin. In the end, Shan Yue can only surrender and follow Jichuan. Jichuan then questions him as to why he went to fight in the most dangerous challenge, leading him to explain that the money drove him to do so. Shan Yue then asks Jichuan to pull over, and the two stop at a shabby shop selling prosthetic hands. Shan Yue then looks over at Jichuan in high hopes and reminds him about what he said earlier about his life being Jichuan's responsibility. Shan Yue then discloses that he has a friend, Ah Chun, in the exile zone with whom he has grown up. He further explains that he wanted to win this match to buy Ah Chun a prosthetic arm, which might enable him to apply for a normal legal job in the jurisdiction area. After all, his original intention has been to acquire one all along. However, Jichuan realizes that Shan Yue did not consider how many people's fate this challenge is going to change. Further, he advises him to distance himself from Ah Chun if he cares about him, as such are the side effects of being a child of divinity. To this, Shan Yue suggests that he go to Ah Chun and explain to him first before deciding any further. Reluctantly, Jichuan complies with the boy's wishes, who clutches the prosthetic hand tightly and glances at him. Not long after, they arrive at Shan Yue's base. Jichuan chooses to wait in the car. Shan Yue notices that he looks like a mess and believes Ah Chun is going to be angry after looking at him. Filled with excitement, Shan Yue is thinking about the things that he will tell Ah Chun once he meets with him, and to see his reaction. With high hopes, Shan Yue calls out for Ah Chun to show him the new prosthetic arm that he has bought. However, what awaits him is darkness, followed by the sound of a metallic object. He turns horrified after seeing Ah Chun's prosthetic hand lying in a pool of blood. His heart begins to race, cold sweat begins to drip down. Shan Yue looks up and sees a man with a silver ring and Ah Chun lying lifelessly on the floor. The mysterious welcomes Shan Yue by calling him the child of divinity. Meanwhile, Shan Yue begins to call out Ah Chun's name in grief as he cannot believe what he is witnessing. The mysterious man that he is the one to discover Shan Yue. Shan Yue immediately rushes toward Ah Chun's lifeless body, shaking it desperately and calling his name until his voice cracks, mingled with tears. He attempts to wake him up, but to no avail. The man who has killed his friend feels disgusted at Shan Yue's grief for what he considers a mere pile of trash. His words only fuel Shan Yue's anger, yet the suited man shows no mercy. He tells Shan Yue that he is a worthless loser and proceeds to strike him hard in the stomach, using his special abilities to hurl him brutally against the concrete wall. He then approaches and grips Shan Yue's neck tightly and goes on to wonder if he got the wrong guy since the child of divinity cannot be this weak. Perhaps due to sadness, despair, and a profound sense of guilt, Shan Yue feels his instincts dulled. He can only cry as consciousness slips away under the pressure of the grip. His gaze falls upon Ah Chun's corpse, cursing himself harshly for the death of a friend he holds dear. As his awareness begins to fade, caught between life and death, he is startled to find himself seemingly in a void, a wide door open behind him. Shan Yue feels a loss of control, unable to comprehend the strange place. Suddenly, a pair of hands swing at him from behind, grabbing him while asking him to move aside. His breath catches, and he gasps as he sees someone strikingly similar to himself standing beside him, pushing him back through the door. With jet-black eyes, the figure glares at Shan Yue with disdain, calling him a coward as the door swings shut. In that short-lived moment, the mysterious man who has killed Ah Chun blinks in confusion at the boy's unexpected reaction. Suddenly, the child grips his wrist tightly and throws himself toward the mysterious man with brutal force, causing the man's fingers to break. With his fingers broken, the man sits in silence. Shan Yue, whether truly himself or perhaps another side of his personality, stands before him with an angry look on his face. Soon, objects begin to levitate in the air. Seeing this tremendous power of display, the man begins to plead for mercy, stating that he didn't mean to do what he did. One more thing he notices is that presumably, Shan Yue's aura is now completely different from a few minutes ago. Trembling in fear, the mysterious man tells Shan Yue that he made a mistake. However, his words are saying something while his actions speak entirely something else. He attempts to grab Shan Yue when suddenly he begins to feel an external force trying to stop his hand. He cannot comprehend what he is witnessing as Shan Yue stands there, unfazed and unmoved. The mysterious man is taken aback by the fact that his hands have stopped obeying him. Thereafter, the furniture intended to strike the mysterious man hangs suspended in the air. Shan Yue calmly seizes the man's telekinetic ability. With a swift punch to the face, he throws the man against the wall, accompanied by a barrage of other furniture, as if the man were a target for arrows. Fear grips the man, witnessing Shan Yue's sudden surge of power. He regrets that he underestimated Shan Yue right after seeing the black ring. The only way he sees that can save his life is by escaping as he proceeds to attempt and flee from the warehouse. He further regrets that he should have ended Shan Yue when he had the chance, but soon recalls that psychokinesis only has a limited range. He realizes that as long as he can keep his distance from Shan Yue, he will be safe from becoming a subject of brutality for him. So he decides to go out. Almost reaching the exit, the man's path is blocked by Jichuan, who questions him if he thinks they will let him leave after causing such a fiasco. The mysterious man takes a good look and realizes that the man questioning him is none other than Liu Jichuan. The man's face turns pale as he gazes at Jichuan. At that moment, Shan Yue suddenly appears behind him, using telekinesis to control the man until his own hands choke him. The man struggles and begs for release, but to no avail, as it is too late. He snaps his own neck and dies on the spot. Shan Yue kicks the man's body aside, then glares fiercely at Jichuan. There, he questions Shan Yue if he wants to fight with him as well. But before he can reply, it appears that Shan Yue has reached his limit, as he promptly collapses. Jichuan, arms crossed, watches him with laughter, surprised to witness such a spectacle right before his eyes. He jokingly mentions how this seems a bit different from what was prophesied of the Son of Salvation. Night has fallen when Shan Yue finally regains consciousness, this time truly as the thin boy, not as another version of himself. He searches for Ah Chun, realizing that his friend has passed away, unable to be saved. Jichuan turns around and notices that Shan Yue is awake, who slowly but surely makes his way to Ah Chun's corpse. Tears constantly falling from his eyes, hands shaking tremble. Shan Yue proceeds to carry Ah Chun out of the warehouse, while Jichuan observes silently, smoking. Shan Yue goes on to dig a grave in the yard area of the warehouse and puts his dead friend's dead body inside it. With a defeated demeanor, Shan Yue proceeds to throw dirt little by little on top of Ah Chun to cover him. The weight of his death is taking a huge toll on Shan Yue as he proceeds to let himself be enveloped by immense sorrow. He then begins to feel as if Ah Chun is encouraging him. Ah Chun questions him about how long he is going to sit there and cry, and begins to gently strike his hair like an older sibling to their beloved younger one. This leads Shan Yue to no longer contain himself and cries out in despair. After reaffirming his resolve, Shan Yue makes his way back to Jichuan's car. Taking a first look at his face, Jichuan realizes that he has cried a lot. Shan Yue explains how Ah Chun's life ended because of his true identity. Jichuan affirms what Shan Yue has to say and assures him that he won't comfort him with lies. Jichuan, too, believes that Ah Chun died because of Shan Yue's true identity, but he reminds Shan Yue that fate cannot be avoided and that this is not the time for self-blame. The only way to prevent such tragedies from recurring is for Shan Yue to become stronger, strong enough to change his own fate and that of others submerged in tragedy. Shan Yue nods slightly, while Jichuan urges him to enter the car. With the death of the most precious person in his life, Shan Yue, the child of destiny, continues his journey to grow stronger than anyone else in this world. He will not turn away, nor will he run. He will seize his fate and stand at the pinnacle, with no one left to trample on him. With that, he bids farewell to Ah Chun and his childhood memories with him as the two, Shan Yue and Jichuan, set on their journey. In the car, Shan Yue is having flashbacks about the recently occurred events. He recalls how he felt his body being occupied by someone else. There was nothing he could do but watch the overwhelming force take over his body and do what was necessary. Although the entity had the same face as Shan Yue, he possessed power, and even the gifted were scared of him. Shan Yue wishes that he had the power of his other self from the get-go, which might have prevented the deadly incident with his friend from happening. However, he quickly collects his thoughts as he realizes that he has started having dangerous ideas. After a while, Shan Yue decides to question Jichuan about where they are headed. He explains that they are going to a place with a better viewpoint. It also appears that Shan Yue might need a change of clothes as his current ones are stinking. They reach a place that is almost close to what Jichuan is looking for, so he decides to get off. There also occurs to be a shop nearby, as the two begin to make their way toward it. Two men are guarding the entrance of the shop. One of them stands with a machete in his hand, while the other has a rifle. The latter questions Jichuan about what gang he is from, and asks him to tell his name. Taking a good look at them, Shan Yue realizes that these people are from the Black Bear gang, and he wastes no time in mentioning this to Jichuan. Shan Yue suggests that they go somewhere else. This gang is notorious for making a living by reselling goods and managing illegal prosthetics production. Hearing such remarks from Shan Yue, Jichuan turns around and is seen smirking, almost as if he doesn't even consider the power level of the two men standing right in front of him. He begins to exert his lightning aura and asks Shan Yue to wait for him right where he is standing. He further reminds Shan Yue that his job is to protect himself the best he can if it comes to that. With that being said, Jichuan goes ahead and dashes inside the shop. As he dashes, a trail of energy is left behind, and the impact of the rate at which he dashed is faster than one can even imagine. The impact is so strong that it sends the two men guarding the door, getting launched in the air. Inside the shop, Jichuan can be heard dealing with the people in his own twisted way. Screams for help and huge impact noises can be heard from inside. In no time, a huge group of people comes out from the shop, running, trying to save their lives the best they can. They seem to have realized that they have been ambushed by a gifted as Shan Yue stands there, covering himself from all the dust that is being thrown in the air, due to the heavy footsteps of the group that's trying to escape. Arriving at the main door of the shop, Jichuan gestures to Shan Yue and asks him to come inside. Back in some alley, a group of men are seen exhausted. They seem to be the ones from the group that just escaped. They are seen discussing whether something big is up since it is not normal for a special power user to be spotted in the penal colony. The other mentions how Jichuan must be the same electricity user who is doing circles in the news about his jurisdiction incident. Their conversation quickly shifts to the guy tagging along with Jichuan, who happens to have a black ring. They try to connect the dots but fail to do so since none of this is making sense for them. For a special power user to be spotted with someone of an evil tier is not at all common. They then decide to report this matter to their boss and decide what they will do next. Meanwhile, in the jurisdiction of the Dead Corpses Club, a girl is moved out of an armored vehicle. Her hands and legs are cuffed up, and she appears to be someone with great power, which explains the level of security she is being provided. She appears to have the power of tapping into another person's mind and seeing in visions what they have experienced in the past. It just so happens that she has been brought to find out who created all this mayhem in the jurisdiction. After tapping into the memory of one of the guards, she explains that a guy with a golden ring and purple hair came here. She further reveals that he left with a boar who was wearing a black ring. The guy in charge confirms if what she has seen is true, and the girl affirms. She is then sent back to the maximum security armored car. However, the girl pauses for a brief moment after she sees another guard lying dead on the floor with his face turned to the ground. The people investigating the scene decide to report this matter to their boss. They further realize that Wu Yue's men have started carrying out their promised tasks. Back at the hideout, Shan Yue has a terrible nightmare about his friend Chun, causing him to abruptly wake up mid-sleep. He notices that Jichuan has been watching television on mute the whole time he is asleep. He appears to be taking a look at the interrogation scene in the arena. Meanwhile, Shan Yue looks out of the window and realizes that he has slept for too long. Jichuan assures Shan Yue that he can sleep for however long he wants since he will rarely get a chance from now on to rest. Shan Yue is well aware that the people chasing him will arrive in no time. This causes Jichuan to question him if he is scared, which immediately pushes him in thoughts where he has learned to live in the present and not care about whether he lives to see tomorrow. However, Shan Yue has always been aware that there is always a little bit of something good that makes one want to live their life. Concerned, Shan Yue asks Jichuan what they are going to do if too many of the enemies attack them all at once. With a slight smirk on his face, Jichuan makes a grand revelation, mentioning that he is not the only one who will be protecting Shan Yue. We are then shown 4 people becoming aware of Jichuan's hideout, and they seem to be the allies. Jichuan expresses his curiosity to discover what others will choose to do. He wonders if they will all come to protect as they promised around 18 years ago. His peculiarity rises as he begins to think whether they care if Shan Yue lives or dies, or if they will just join the House Lin. Shan Yue is taken aback by those words, asking Jichuan what he means by choice since the 4 houses are already their allies. This prompts Jichuan to elaborate. He explains that 6 house confidants were surrounding Lady Wu Yue back in the time. This also included House Liu, where Jichuan is from. Along with House Liu, there were House Han, Zhou, Su, Pei, and He as well. At that time, Lady Wu Yue's group believed that the ring honed one's evil persona. Moreover, she wishes to create a world where the gifted and the non-gifted could live with each other in harmony. However, all things didn't go as planned. The gifted ones begin to have objections to Lady Wu Yue's idea of tearing down the wall. They did not want to live with the inferior group of people, and found Lady Wu Yue's idea to be utterly foolish. Seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, Wu Yue reminded everyone that this was a place for a meeting, and not irrational decisions. This gave the Lin family head leverage to speak against Wu Yue, who had the most issue with her idea. He told her that she was the one being irrational. With that, the Lin family refused to associate with what they deemed inferior people. Consequently, the Lin family declared war on Wu Yue, while uniting with many other houses that had the same goal as them. During this crisis, the divine power wielder, Wu Yue, saw a great war coming, so she gathered the 6 great families, pleading one last time. This was the first time when they saw Shan Yue. Wu Yue understood how it was really selfish and absurd what she was about to request. She then reminded them not to forget their mission. Thereupon, Wu Yue explained to everyone how the gifted would destroy the world once they were given the chance. She believed that in 18 years, bullying and all other things related to it would get more common and merciless than before. She noted how the hatred of the gifted for the non-gifted would increase drastically, and that soon enough, 2 different worlds would exist at the same time. Concluding her request, Wu Yue explained how all this chaos would be the price of allowing the gifted to expand their reach. She decided to leave the choice in the hands of those 6 families, and hoped that their descendants could rescue his son, Shan Yue, when the war begins once again in the future. During this, she embraced him tightly, gazing into the ocean-deep eyes of her child, stating that from this moment, the child's power would lie dormant, as he would fall into a state of deep sleep. When he awakened, Wu Yue believed he would be able to make the world a better place. After a tremendous war, the control of the ring tightened up. Moreover, Wu Yue was taken in by House Lin, and everything related to her was either burned or destroyed, as if she never existed. Thereafter, drastic changes took place in the Heavenly City, and the 8 major houses' ranking changed. The 6 great families were separated by the Lin family, with every movement being monitored. Therefore, the 6 great families operated in silence, as if they were doing nothing at all for the next 18 years. They even stopped contacting each other so that there would be no way left for House Lin to trace any of Wu Yue's remaining confidants. Jichuan still remembers all those people who decided to guard this plan, and he cannot help himself but wonder if they are all going to keep their word. Shan Yue feels he has heard enough. He understands and mentions to Jichuan how he must be disappointed in him, and rightfully so, as Jichuan confirms that he came here to meet with the child of divinity, but what he got was someone who appears weak. However, Jichuan assures that he doesn't regret coming. To calm himself, Shan Yue proceeds to leave for the warehouse, telling Jichuan that he is going to get something to eat. After making his way to the warehouse, Shan Yue sits on the ground as his hands begin to tremble violently at the unbelievable story, as if he has received too much information all at once. He believes that he cannot be the son his mother wanted him to be, as he gets scared pretty easily. Shan Yue is also aware that other magic users are surely on their way to take his life. This gives him enough motivation to decide to fight for his life and to end up being worthy of fulfilling his mother's expectations. Suddenly, he feels the floor beneath him shake violently, his instincts urging him to run. He leaps forward just as a fierce burst of fire erupts from below. Shan Yue stares in shock. Meanwhile, Jichuan, aware of what is happening, calmly lights his cigarette and realizes that Pei Starfire from the Pei family has arrived. But he wonders if she has become their enemy. While Shan Yue desperately dodges the relentless fire chasing him, the warehouse feels increasingly hot. Frustrated, he realizes that the flames seem to detect his presence. He tries to think quickly as he shelters behind a shelf. But what he sees next is even more terrifying. The fire suddenly splits and explodes right in front of him. He stumbles backward, momentarily searching for Jichuan, but then reflecting on how cowardly it will be to keep seeking refuge with others. So he decides to keep running away from the fire and not let it get to him, but it keeps overwhelming him from time to time, making Shan Yue realize that he needs to do something about it, otherwise he will not be able to get out of there alive. Thus, he quickly strategizes. The flames likely detect him through his breath and movements, so the only thing he can do is hold his breath and let the fire pass. After the explosion, he needs to move swiftly to find the fire wielder. Shan Yue scoffs, mocking his hasty and flawed plan, but realizes that this is his only chance. As the fire approaches wildly, he holds his breath and stands firm against it. A loud explosion echoes as the fireball shoots back toward its owner. A woman with long hair quickly senses that Shan Yue has vanished. However, she swiftly turns around when she sees the boy she has been searching for standing right behind her. However, Shan Yue has no clue what to do now. The girl pauses for a moment at Shan Yue's appearance but then bursts out laughing, exclaiming loudly that he has passed. Meanwhile, Zhichuan doesn't need to peek out the window to know what has just occurred as he simply grins broadly in his calm demeanor. Explanation time. In the world of the ring, societal order and wealth are managed by the esteemed Major 8 Houses, the highest organization of leadership. These houses have a storied history and wield significant influence over the realm. During the reign of Wu Yue, the Major 8 Houses included House Wu, House Lin, House Liu, House Chen, House Yao, House Zhou, House Zi, and House Su. The rankings of these houses were determined by their ability to wield spiritual force, the power they held over sea monsters, their contributions to society, and their financial strength. Each house competed to prove their dominance in these areas, striving to maintain or improve their position in the hierarchy. In addition to these major houses, there were smaller but still prestigious houses that, while not ranked among the top 8, were highly respected due to their fame and historical significance. Notable examples of these houses include He, Han, and Pei, who were known to be acquaintances of Wu Yue. Despite their smaller size, these houses maintained their influence and reputation through their close connections and distinguished histories. Fast forward to the present day, and the rankings of the Major 8 Houses have seen some changes but remain largely similar to Wu Yue's era. The current rankings list House Lin at the top, followed by House Chen, House Liu, House Yao, House Zai, House Kong, House Qi, and House He. This updated hierarchy reflects the shifts in power and influence over the years. One notable aspect of the current rankings is the continued presence of House Liu. Their enduring status can be attributed to their illustrious past, particularly the fact that they once produced a divine. This accomplishment grants them a special status that has helped them retain their position among the top houses. Moreover, House Liu's strategic schemes to divide Wu Yue's confidants have also played a crucial role in maintaining their influence. In a significant moment, Liu Er, a key figure from House Liu, confidently asserts his capabilities, suggesting his potential as the real successor. His declaration, "Since Liu Er said this, he can do it," underscores his determination and the confidence others have in his abilities. This highlights the ongoing power struggles and ambitions within the ranks of the Major 8 Houses. As the story unfolds, the intricate dynamics of the Major 8 Houses continue to shape the destiny of the Lians, with each house vying for power, prestige, and influence in this ever-evolving saga. Hearing that he has passed, Shan Yue looks at the girl as if she has said something extraordinary. Although he can barely stand, Shan Yue tells himself not to fall in front of the girl since he just got acknowledged by her. His body has totally given up on him, but Shan Yue sits there as if nothing happened, or so he was pretending. Shortly after, Zhichuan walks in, lifts Shan Yue by grabbing him from his shirt, and proceeds to knock him out. With a confident voice, he tells the girl that they need to talk, and the girl agrees. The knocked-out Shan Yue is asleep on the sofa while the two discuss his power level. Pei Starfire believes that Shan Yue doesn't possess exceptional talent. She believes that he just has slightly fast reflexes and not super senses, like Zhichuan says so. Given that he is the child of Lady Wu Yue, one of the most powerful Esper, Shan Yue has inherited a lame ability, according to Starfire. Ironically, she exclaims that their future is brimming with home. Hearing so much about the great things Shan Yue would achieve, this surely isn't the best impression. Starfire is conflicted about whether she should go home or not. Meanwhile, Zhichuan takes all this while thinking how sharp her tongue is. He explains that his theory says otherwise, and believes that Shan Yue is indeed someone with exceptional talents. He reminds Starfire that Shan Yue managed to outplay her just recently, judging by how he handled her ambush. Managing to conceal one's presence the instant the flames have engulfed them is not something that just anyone can pull off. It requires someone with quick decision-making and the ability to stay calm, determined, and focused when many would panic. On top of that, Shan Yue even pinpointed Starfire's location. These bold moves are good enough to tell someone that they are not to be messed with. However, Starfire explains that Shan Yue was able to pull that off because she went easy on him. Moreover, She also notices that Jichuan is constantly trying to prove Shan Yue as someone worthy enough to be protected. This causes her to question Jichuan if something happened before her arrival that she should know about. Jichuan recalls the incident from earlier where Shan Yue's other self took over him, but he decides not to mention this information to Starfire and goes on to change the topic. He reminds her that it has been 16 years since they two met. Furthermore, he acknowledges that Starfire has been training hard all these years, leading her to do the same, diverting her eyes away in either shyness or playfulness. Starfire tells Jichuan that someone with a scar on his face has no credibility to talk about the appearances of others. The dawn appears to be approaching, and the two wish that the next person to arrive is a friend and not a foe. Meanwhile, in the Celestial City, at the council hall of the 8 Grand Families, 2 men in long trench coats are discussing how something must be happening, since the hall has been reopened for the 8 families to gather. One of them mentions how they are missing the era under Wu Yue's leadership, as that was the time when the strongest of the families were gathered. However, the other men ask him to slow down as the ghosts might be able to hear them. These ghosts are tasked by the 8 families to track down the descendant of Wu Yue and handle sudden Esper-related incidents. Meanwhile, one of the ghosts happens to be eavesdropping on the conversation, but gets asked by the other ghost to stop as they need to take care of the matter at hand. They then move to the meeting room where they discuss Jichuan. They seem to be aware that he is a divine tier Esper and someone that they should be careful with. To deal with him, they decide to send the hybrids since they have been keeping them for this very moment. However, Jichuan and Shan Yue are not their only problem, but also Starfire, someone who they have to deal with to get to Shan Yue. Another thing of their concern is the royal families that have been tasked to protect Shan Yue at all costs. From the Su family, the weaponsmith master Su Ye disappeared 10 years ago. From the Han family, their descendant Han Shu indeed has exceptional talent, but he has been bedridden for years, and now he is incapable of fighting. The only formidable opponent from the 3 royal families that they need to take care of is Zhou Shi from the Zhou family. He has been sent to a monastery after his family disowned him. The ghost's leader asks to warn the 3 descendants not to come in their way if they want to continue living their miserable lives. Meanwhile, a raven is flying around the area of their meeting place, and soon it takes off but gets spotted by the ghost leader. The raven makes its way to Zhou Shi and informs him about Jichuan already joining forces with Shan Yue. On top of that, he discovers that Starfire has also taken off. Getting all this information, Zhou Shi wastes no time getting up and leaves, realizing that he can handle this alone. Meanwhile, a ghost makes its way to the Shu family house where Han Shu has been bedridden. There, the ghost takes out its tentacles, and it appears that he is about to end Han Shu's life, ensuring that he doesn't live to protect Shan Yue. Starfire senses that someone is outside, prompting Jichuan to take a look. Meanwhile, Shan Yue wakes up from all the disturbance as well. He quickly goes to Jichuan, asking him if it's an enemy that has come. After taking a look outside, Jichuan is disappointed that the people are so desperate to get their place back. He notices that there is a group of goons outside their hideout, and he presumes that they are there to get their place back. He is displeased that the people in the penal colony have superiority issues. A guy with the speakers asks them to have a chat. From the window, Shan Yue notices that one of the goons is none other than Uncle Qin Tian. Immediately pushing Shan Yue behind, realizing that he might be spotted, Jichuan tells the goons that he has nothing to chat about with them. Qin Tian tells Jichuan that he doesn't want to chat with him, but rather with the black ring holder. It is then revealed that Qin Tian is a black ring holder himself as well, and this greatly surprises Shan Yue. Standing guard outside of the room, the two, Starfire and Jichuan, wait eagerly for Shan Yue and Qin Tian to finish their conversation. Thereupon, Starfire tells Jichuan to be less disappointed. Jichuan questions her if she can see his disappointment, leading her to explain that it is very obvious. Finally fed up, Jichuan breaks character, explaining that his hands are itching for a fight with a real enemy. Inside the room, Qin Tian expresses his surprise at meeting Shan Yue again so soon and sitting across from him. He reveals that upon hearing the building was occupied by the gifted, he immediately knew it was Shan Yue. Shan Yue quickly apologizes, stating he had no intention of taking over Qin Tian's territory. However, Qin Tian assures him it doesn't matter and explains that he is not there to reclaim it. He only wants to find out why the gifted came solely for Shan Yue. This prompts Shan Yue to tell Qin Tian that he wouldn't believe it, even if he explained. Meanwhile, the men outside are eagerly waiting for Qin Tian to walk out. They appear to have no idea what he is doing, but one of them has started to feel hungry. They further discuss how their boss doesn't allow anyone but Qin Tian to go back and forth in the penal colony. In the building, Qin Tian understands that Shan Yue is Wu Yue's descendant and will be the one fighting against her enemies, the gift of the entire heavenly city. Moreover, his only two allies are the two people who are standing outside the room, Zhichuan and Starfire. However, Shan Yue notices that Qin Tian already knows who Wu Yue is without him ever mentioning his mother's name. Qin Tian explains that everyone in the region is aware of Wu Yue's name, though they are banned from mentioning it under any circumstance. He expresses his surprise at Shan Yue for disclosing all this information to someone he has only met once. Shan Yue responds by saying that he has a gut feeling that Qin Tian is trustworthy, and his trust in his intuition is impeccable. In gratitude for Shan Yue's honesty, Qin Tian decides to reveal something important concerning his mother. He explains how 20 years ago, he interviewed for a job. For his job, he had to go to the jurisdiction area and take part in the construction of a building. The location was confidential, as the workers were blindfolded when they were taken to the site of construction. As time went by, Qin Tian noticed that what they were building was not just some ordinary building. They were building a high-security prison for the divine power holder. Qin Tian speculates that the prison is where Wu Yue is being held at, and believes that Shan Yue's mother is still alive. Although this is just a speculation, Qin Tian appears to be confident in this guess. Back at House Su, a ghost searches for living beings, but finds none. The house seems completely empty, with no signs of life for years. Suddenly, the ghost senses a faint energy coming from a room. Investigating, he discovers a guy hanging by several cords. Remembering that House Su had no descendants left, he is confused to see someone resembling one. The ghost immediately questions the guy about his identity, realizing that even the ghosts didn't know about him. Meanwhile, the cords send signals to the guy's body, which will eventually wake him up. Soon, as the charging is complete, the guy calls out the ghost using his name, Chen Yan. Panicking, Chen Yan surges toward the guy, but gets thrown away as he hits the wall. The guy appears to have emitted a wave of energy using just his palms, making Chen Yan realize that he is using the same power as Luoxing Wang, and it makes no sense or connection for a descendant of House Su to have that power. Chen Yan then decides to escape and report this to his superiors, but before he can do that, the guy catches up to him. In the heat of battle, he places his palm firmly on his back, concentrating a brutal amount of energy that surges with extreme force. The sheer power he unleashes causes a massive explosion, resonating through the battlefield and marking the dramatic demise of Chen Yan. Meanwhile, on another front, Zhou Si engages the lone ghost with unmatched efficiency. The ghost launched his water cannon attack towards him, but with a calm demeanor, Zhou Si tells the ghost he has made a grave mistake by choosing him as a target. The ghost, once confident, is now left in utter shock, his eyes wide enough in disbelief while witnessing Zhou Si effortlessly deflect hit attacks as if they are mere child's play. Zhou Si, a skilled man, displays his agility and prowess, dashing, jumping, dodging, and striking with precision and ease. Each move is executed with a sense of enjoyment, as if this deadly encounter is nothing more than a game to him. His movements are fluid, and his strikes are powerful, leaving the ghost bewildered and terrified. During the intense fight, the ghost, trembling with fear and desperation, musters the courage to ask Zhou Si about the power he is using. Zhou Si, with a confident tone, replies that he doesn't need any special power to deal with weaklings like him. His confidence and skill are evident, making it clear that he is in a league of his own, far beyond the reach of his ghostly adversary. A large Buddha statue is shown, followed by a group of monks sitting in an organized fashion, praying toward their god in unity. These monks also appear to have silver rings tied to their necks. A saying is then told, explaining that human lives come and go in such a short amount of time, exactly like water vanishes when a line is drawn in it using a stick. The scene then shifts to Zhou Si, standing, covered in blood. He has dead eyes, and blood appears to be dripping off of his sharp sword. A wider angle is then shown where Zhou Si stands on top of a big stone right in front of a waterfall. Back at the house of the Han family, a ghost is standing beside the unconscious Han Shu. With his tentacles out, the ghost is prepared to encounter any ambush from either Han Shu or someone else. However, a closer look reveals that Han Shu is completely unconscious with a gas mask on his face to support his breathing. Assessing this, the ghost realizes that their information is correct, and that Han Shu is really a corpse with no mobility at all. His current condition has made him completely useless. The ghost feels pity for our poor boy Han Shu due to his current condition. He even recalls how Han Shu was gifted, and to test it, the ghost lifts his head a bit and suddenly blood starts dripping from Han Shu. The ghost then checks Han Shu's arm and realizes that he really possesses superpowers. The ghost appears to be a real sucker for superpowers. Too bad that he doesn't have any exceptional power of his own, or does he? Suddenly, Han Shu's sister walks in a plate full of fruits. However, after seeing a ghost there, not the spirit one, she drops the basket in shock as if she saw the sun rising from the west instead of the east. She immediately tells the ghost to get away from her brother, prompting the ghost to argue that he doesn't want to. Without wasting any more time, the sister charges toward the ghost in an attempt to subdue him. Determined, the sister fights pretty well and attacks the ghost using her leash from afar, knocking him back. She then takes a moment of pause to check up on Han Shu, her brother. The ghost soon regains his composure and throws the sister away, telling her that she is being too careless. This seems to have inflicted some serious damage on her shoulders, so much so that she is holding it in pain. The ghost then surrounds Han Shu with his tentacle and jumps out the window, followed by the sister jumping out as well. Thereupon, a daunting voice tells the ghost to come to a halt. The voice turns out to be none other than Han Shu's mother, who has arrived just in time with her men. She tells the ghost that he should have informed her before coming to House Han, so she would have been better prepared. Ironically, she tells the ghost that he has put them in a difficult position by showing up unannounced. However, the ghost is not as dumb as he looks. He asks Han Shu's mother to stop with her act and reveals that he is aware of her being Wu Yue's lackey. With fierce eyes and a daunting tone, Han Shu's mother explains that she does not care about the offspring of others, but her own, and politely asks the ghost to put her son down. Trying to act over smart, the ghost tosses Han Shu in the air and asks her to get him. The mother immediately tells her daughter to catch Han Shu. Confused at first, the girl quickly realizes what to do and immediately takes the position to catch her brother. The ghost sees this as an opportunity to escape and takes it to full use. However, the mother explains that the important thing is to take Han Shu to the hospital and asks her men not to pursue the ghost. One of her men makes his way to the sister, asking her to go back. The sister, with her brother in her lap, questions her mother if she really meant what she said earlier about not caring for other offspring. She further inquires to her mother if their house is just going to stand and watch the war. She further questions her mom as to why she was polite with the ghost, even though he had the intention of hurting Han Shu. She is then asked by one of the men to go inside, stating that even the walls have ears. Before leaving, the sister assures that she is going to get back from hurting her brother. The mother then explains to her that she made two mistakes during the recent encounter. The first mistake was that she did not confirm if the enemy was dead, as she did not pay attention to that, and the second mistake she made was not making the right decisions on the spot. Back at the hideout, Shan Yue confronts Qintian about more details regarding the divine prison. Qintian then begins to describe details of the prison, along with the pool that had miasma as a liquid rather than water. Furthermore, Qintian proceeds to describe the smell, when suddenly Shan Yue loses consciousness. Qintian addresses him, but receives no response. Meanwhile, Shan Yue sees a depiction of his mother sitting right in front of him, but he soon realizes that it's not her. His mother then transforms into Shan Yue's evil version, who then shoots the real Shan Yue, leaving Qintian concerned. Qintian opens the door desperately and shouts to everyone to come in, stating that the pink-haired boy is in serious trouble. He calls the two espers in the corridor, and they quickly run inside. Xenia grabs Shan Yue by the shoulders and starts shaking him, calling his name, but he does not respond. Meanwhile, Jichuan remains silent, remembering when he saw evil Shan Yue taking over the real Shan Yue's body. The boy stands there with an empty expression as if in a trance. Inside Shan Yue's consciousness, in front of the white door through which he passed last time, the sky around glows, enveloped in dark clouds. The evil Shan Yue holds his real version by the arm. They are dressed in the same clothes and look exactly alike, but our boy tries to break free while his evil version holds him firmly, demanding his body. Shan Yue falls to his knees on the ground in front of his other self, who holds him with a strong aura emanating from his body. Shan Yue's eyes frighteningly glow neon. He crouches down, getting very close to his clone's face while Shan Yue thinks about the overwhelming power and realizes he can't move his body. Shan Yue's clone then grabs him by the neck as if he is a cat, provocatively approaching his ear, and reminds him that he summoned him. When Shan Yue's friend, Ah Chun, was brutally killed, and he was helpless against his enemy, Shan Yue took his friend's place. Shan Yue raises his blue eyes and looks at the boy identical to him, who smiles with neon eyes, and asserts that he is the only one who can win the next war. He demands Shan Yue's body, promising not to disappoint him. The transformed Ah Chun stretches out his hand, making his offer, but Shan Yue struggles to move even slightly and fails. Sweat runs down his face as he thinks about Ah Chun's power, realizing he can't even speak. He then gets very close to Shan Yue's face and seriously tells him to just say he will give him his body. Shan Yue remains clenched with his teeth and fist closed, not responding until Ah Chun declares him a coward, and it appears that he has hit a nerve. Hearing repeated knocks on the door, Ah Chun releases Shan Yue, gets up, and leaves him on the ground, noting that there is always someone interrupting them. Shan Yue slowly opens his eyes and sees Ji Chuan blurrily with his hands open, emanating electricity. Next to him, Pei Xenia holds a hair stick, with a confused look on her face, which emits smoke, and remarks that they will see if Shan Yue has any brain left after the shock session. Qin Tian asks worriedly if Shan Yue is okay, and if he can hear them. In his mind, Shan Yue still hears his evil self's voice saying they will meet again soon. Soon, Shan Yue screams and regains consciousness, grabbing Ji Chuan's arm with all his strength. Qin Tian watches everything with a worried expression. The tension remains in the room until Shan Yue raises his eyes and addresses Lu Ji Chuan. Ji Chuan promptly replies to the confusion, asking him what's wrong. What follows catches everyone by surprise. Shan Yue looks Ji Chuan in the eyes and demands an immediate fight. Ji Chuan responds that maybe he gave Shan Yue too strong a shock. Xenia then approaches, placing one hand on Ji Chuan's forehead and the other on Shan Yue's, noting that the temperature is normal. Annoyed, Shan Yue declares that he is perfectly fine. He needs his Esper powers, and fighting is the only way to awaken them. Looking at Ji Chuan again, he insists on a fight. The two Espers look at each other expressionlessly for a few moments, and then start laughing. Xenia, covering her mouth, comments that Shan Yue is delirious. Ji Chuan adds that it's as if Shan Yue is insulting him. They then move to the corner of the room and begin to confer as if no one could hear them. Xenia says that training with Shan Yue is not a bad idea, as it will show him the harsh reality, but warns Ji Chuan to be careful since their enemies will be arriving soon, and not to waste too much energy. Ji Chuan responds that he won't waste energy on Shan Yue, calling him a weakling and claiming he will finish him off before breaking a sweat. Qin Tian listens in silence, and Shan Yue, still sitting, points out that he can hear them. Qin Tian then suggests a perfect place for a fight. In another location near a series of containers, Xenia stands with her braided blue hair flying in the wind and warns Shan Yue to be careful not to get killed. Ji Chuan watches, smoking a cigarette with his usual gentlemanly posture. Shan Yue responds with determination, stating that he needs Ji Chuan to kill him. Watching the two move away and go to the center of the location, Xenia thinks that she chose the right side. Ji Chuan remains with his hands in his pockets in a relaxed posture while Shan Yue assumes an apprehensive fighting stance. The wind blows and the dust rises, giving a dramatic effect to the confrontation. Shan Yue thinks about where Ji Chuan's attack will come from and reminds himself to stay calm and focused. He needs to figure out Ji Chuan's attack patterns and then think of a counterattack. Meanwhile, Ji Chuan gives a smug smile, raises one of his hands, and begins to emanate rays. He states that they will make this a little more like a battlefield. Looking up, Shan Yue sees a dome formed of hexagons cover the space above him and extend to the ground. The purple dome encloses the entire area, separating them from Xenia and Qin Tian, who are locked outside. Xenia curses and punches the dome, which reflects the force at her, preventing her from passing. Xenia finally stops and looks fixedly with her red eyes, expressing concern for Shan Yue. On the inside, Shan Yue remains focused and silent, watching apprehensively. Ji Chuan, with a red glow in his eyes and surrounded by purple rays, warns Shan Yue to keep his eyes wide open as he is going to show him what a real Esper is. Ji Chuan claims that he is on a completely different level and asks if Shan Yue is ready to change his skin. Shan Yue remains focused, trying to predict Ji Chuan's next move to dodge. Suddenly, he is surprised, and the tension in his body increases. Ji Chuan appears behind him in a millisecond, emanating electricity from his body. Shan Yue wonders when Ji Chuan has moved but can't finish his thought before being hit by Ji Chuan's blow, which throws him, electrocuted, across the battlefield. He realizes that Ji Chuan is too fast as he can't even see what he did. Shan Yue falls to the ground. His eyes struggle to stay open, understanding that with just one blow, this is the result. Ji Chuan approaches slowly with an intimidating aura and tells Shan Yue to stay with him, as he is just warming up, smiling smugly and walking in Shan Yue's direction. Outside, Xenia tries to break the barrier by throwing fireballs at it, but nothing seems to be working. Qin Tian observes Xenia's efforts and comments that he has seen his share of espers, but Jichuan is on another level. Xenia replies that people say Jichuan is the closest thing to a divine level this world has ever seen. Xenia stares fixedly at the barrier while recalling the events that occurred 16 years ago on the day of the Esper evaluation. A young Xenia with 2 pigtails in her blue hair arrives at the evaluation site, accompanied by 2 bodyguards. There, the hall trembles with a strong wave of electricity coming from the evaluation station, leaving people worried. One of them even wonders what kind of Esper this is. Soon, on the evaluation screen, Jichuan's name appears, and next to it is his Esper ranking. The monitor glitches for a moment, leaving people wondering if there could be a divine-level Esper. While they wait, everyone remains silent with high tension in the room. Xenia watches everything in silence as the seconds pass until the monitor finally shows a gold ranking. Gradually, the door opens, and thick smoke comes out of the evaluation room, bringing a smell of burning and electrocuted things. Slowly, a small Jichuan walks out with a golden ring around his neck and rays emanating from his body. Xenia crosses her eyes with Jichuan, and soon an adult comes to get her, saying that it's her turn. The young Xenia smiles and follows the adult, thinking that she's not going to lose to him. Touching the silver ring on her neck and the scar, Xenia returns to the present reality. Qin Tian asks if Xenia is saying this guy is some kind of Esper prodigy, and notes that if he's that strong, Shan Yue won't last a second. Xenia declares that's not her only concern, leaving Qin Tian puzzled. She explains that their enemies can attack them at any moment, and that she has to keep this position. Qin Tian offers to help, saying he'll guard the entrance and contact her the second he feels another Esper. Xenia asks why he is helping them. Qin Tian, with a fixed gaze, replies that many Espers came to the exile zone just because of Shan Yue, which made Qin Tian realize that Shan Yue is someone who can change the world, and that's exactly what the Black Rings want, a changed world. Inside the sphere, Shan Yue lies on the ground without strength, his face scorched, thinking that he's grateful Jichuan is not their enemy. Gradually, his vision fades. His eyes slowly close, and he hears his other self's voice in his mind, saying he is useless unless he gives him his body. The evil Shan Yue then appears on top of Shan Yue's body. He seems to be aware that Shan Yue is tired of being powerless and wants power to prevent himself from becoming a nobody. He then begins to taunt Shan Yue, saying he is a pathetic coward who cannot face the harsh reality, and asks what's the point of fighting him. He circles Shan Yue with a seductive voice, telling him to imagine what those Espers will do to him if they capture him. The evil Shan Yue then embraces the real Shan Yue from behind with a sweet voice, asking him to just give up and give himself to him. Shan Yue thinks he will destroy them all and wipe out the last Esper from the face of the earth, causing the real Shan Yue to remember what Ah Chun told him. Memories soon begin to surface, memories of fire, explosions, and war in the exile zone. Amidst it all, in a distant neighborhood, a group of people dances around a campfire. Small hanging lights illuminate the night. People in white cloaks with crosses on their backs and weapons celebrate. It is a moment of joy amidst the chaos. Ah Chun and Shan Yue, 2 children, watch everything from the corner of the party, just enjoying the warmth of the fire until one of the men present hands a piece of bread to the 2 friends. When Shan Yue raises his hand to take it, his friend stops him, saying if they take it, then the man will have nothing left. However, the gentleman replies not to worry about him, that he can't eat much at his age anyway. Ah Chun then takes the bread, and the man strokes the heads of the 2, who have injuries all over their bodies. He then thanks the man, smiling, while Shan Yue proposes that maybe they should stay here. Ah Chun argues no way, stating that the screams never stop. Ah Chun draws Shan Yue's attention to the world beyond those fences, and to the chaos around them. We then get a glimpse of a mother and a child getting escorted inside, while an injured man is left out, indicating the rigged system of the place. Ah Chun explains that this place, these people, are worse than the bandits out there. If they stay here, they'll become like them, something that he doesn't want to happen to him. Shan Yue looks ahead angrily and says this world is messed up because of those Espers. Ah Chun stretches out his hand, holding the piece of bread while making it levitate slightly. He confidently says he's kind of an Esper too. Shan Yue quickly turns and replies that Ah Chun is different. Ah Chun then wonders and asks Shan Yue how it would be if there was another world with absolutely no Espers. When Shan Yue mentions that it's impossible, Ah-chun reveals that's exactly his point. He even points out how the charity world has stepped up for themselves. Shan Yue listens attentively and looks at his piece of bread, which soon disappears from his hand. As it turns out, Ah-chun jokingly takes it and begins shoving it all in his mouth, causing an outburst from Shan Yue. Returning the bread to his brother, Ah-chun tells him to just finish eating so they can go back to the real world. Back in the present, in Shan Yue's consciousness, Shan's power shines intensely within his chest as he embraces him, ready to take control of his body. Shan Yue responds that he won't let him have his body. The space breaks, bringing Shan Yue back to his physical body, which now glows with a strong gray aura inside the dome. Slowly, he gets up, the glow of his aura emanating strongly, and says, "This isn't over." Jichuan laughs, excited about the battle, and responds that things are getting interesting now. In the area of jurisdiction near the gate, a group of people is walking. The group is composed of 5 young people and a child carrying a rabbit. They are all wearing gray uniforms and have black rings around their necks. A government vehicle is parked in an isolated area, while 2 men report to their superiors. A man states that they rescued the ghosts, whose injuries are worse than they initially thought, and that they found no trace of the assailants at the scene. In the back of the vehicle, the bodies of 2 hooded assassin ghosts are strapped to bloodied gurneys and connected to oxygen tanks. The man continues his report on the phone in the front seat, asserting that this likely means the assailants are heading to the exile zone, and suggests their next move. The response from the other end of the line is quick, asserting that the assailants won't get far, and that the hybrid unit will intercept them. In the jurisdiction area, a group of young people approaching the gate waits impatiently. A girl with pigtails and 2 crossed swords on her back complains about the slow-moving door. Meanwhile, 2 guards with gray rings around their necks observe them through futuristic goggles, wondering if they are prisoners, as they don't remember the jurisdiction area having a prison to hold black rings. Suddenly, the pigtailed girl with the 2 swords moves in a millisecond and reappears, placing one of her swords at the neck of the guard who was watching her. She accuses the guard of watching her. The guard tries to apologize, but the girl opens her eyes, revealing her round purple irises shining brightly, and a cloaking effect appears around her face. The glasses of the guard then begin to heat up and glow until, in an explosion of colors, he falls back screaming. The other guard points his weapon at her and tries to shoot, but alas, the same cloaking effect envelops the pistol, preventing him from firing. The guard, trembling, wonders why his gun isn't working, as if it was difficult to find out. The girl quickly turns to the next guard until a young man interrupts her, declaring that it's time to get to work. He announces a change of plans, stating that they need 2 of them to go back to the jurisdiction area to prevent the special grade guy from reaching the exile zone. A young blonde man with his hands in his pockets asks who will go. Taya, the pigtailed girl, immediately starts walking the other way, raising her hand and declaring that she will be the first to go, whereas another guy named Chi-si volunteers to tag along. Taya and Chi-si immediately go on their way, while the other 4 head for the gate. Outside the jurisdiction area, a young man, Zhou Shi, cuts through the city, leaping across buildings in broad daylight amidst the noise of construction and fog. He is wearing a white shirt over a long-sleeved black shirt and gray pants, carrying his sword by his side, and runs through the city. In a building next to him, a group of scientists works in a lab, dressed in protective gear, and packing up samples and experiments. Zhou Shi then stops as he senses some danger. He lightly draws his sword, preparing for the worst, and gets into a fighting stance. The sunlight falls on him as he continues his search for where the danger might be coming from. Not far from there, in a random building, Chi-si is crouched on the floor, drawing something with chalk and reasoning that only an idiot can start a fight with a special grade head-on. He reflects on finally getting out of prison and decides that he just needs to delay the special grade guy a little, as bringing down a black ring should be a breeze for him. He concludes that if they move faster, he won't have a problem. On the floor, Chi-si appears to have drawn a maze around a stick figure and locks the figure in the central box. He then looks at his creation and declares it done. His eyes glow a neon red as he holds the chalk. The drawing lights up, and the white lines transform into neon orange lines that burn on the ground. Soon after, the buildings begin to move, and metal walls emerge, enveloping them. Large plates cut off the paths, constructing the maze drawn by the boy, and cracking the buildings in half, destroying the ground with the impact of their arrival. Zhou Shi wonders if something is coming from underground, feeling the vibration under his feet. An employee questions if it was an earthquake, but another one responds that it wasn't an earthquake. However, the building is still moving, and even starts shaking after some time, destabilizing everything around it. Metal plates emerge, and the buildings move, forming a large maze. Joshi watches everything, keeping himself standing and alert, firmly planting his feet on the ground as he searches for an exit. He desperately is in search of a way out but cannot find any. After a few moments of silence, he detects a large explosion. The building is engulfed in fire and smoke while debris flies through the air. He realizes that someone is trying to trap him. Landing safely after avoiding the effects of the explosion, Joshi declares that he doesn't have time to play hide-and-seek like a little kid with the assailant. The young man leaps, wrapped in green energy rays, with his sword close to him, jumping through the buildings. He follows the path, trying to reach the top. Meanwhile, Chisi continues drawing and tracing lines around the chalk maze, asserting that Joshi can't escape. He draws another line, closing the path in front of Joshi. A metal plate appears, blocking Joshi's passage, so he quickly changes his route, jumping through the surrounding structures. He continues the process, jumping and changing direction as new plates appear, blocking his path. Eventually, he touches his head dizzily and lands on the ground. As he gets up, Joshi thinks he's back to the starting point. He is surrounded, trapped by buildings and metal plates. From above, he is just a small dot amid a large concrete and metal box. In the city, someone with propulsion boots is flying over the bridge when the suit system issues an alert, recommending an emergency landing of the leg energy core. The propulsion boots begin to fail, and the young man, wearing a gray robotic suit with purple points on the cervical spine, looks down and sees someone waiting for him on the bridge. Taya waves up at him with a smile on her face. She invites him to come down. Meanwhile, outside the dome where Jichuan and Shan Yue are dueling, Xenia is speaking on the phone, thanking Qintian for the warning and instructing him to find a safe place to hide, assuring him that she'll be fine and doesn't need his help. As soon as she hangs up the phone, she removes one of the sticks holding her hair and expresses her annoyance aloud, saying she hates looking up to talk to people. From the top of one of the containers, the other 4 young people are waiting, laughing. Xenia looks at them with a smug and superior smile, questioning who will die first. Xenia stares at the group and asks who is going to die first, or if they want to team up against her, as she doesn't mind facing all of them. The purple-haired girl mocks her, stating that she needs to get serious. Silently, Xenia thinks that she just needs to buy time until Shan Yue's expected ability takes effect. She speculates that even if he awakens his ability, he will probably inherit some kind of telekinetic ability from his mother. She concludes that when it comes to a real fight, it will depend on her Jichuan. The blonde-haired young man sitting at the top of the container looks up, stating that he hasn't been here in years, and thinks that the place is even worse than he remembers. The purple-haired girl crosses her arms and replies, suggesting he shouldn't talk about the exile, as if it were a place of nostalgic vacations, as it brings back bad memories. Another one replies that some things never change. Xenia observes more closely, noting that they are all black rings. She recalls that her father was right. 14 years ago, at the Pei family's house, the young Xenia returned from her training, drying herself with a towel, thinking that with 98 wins and 2 losses, maybe it's time to increase the difficulty of the training simulation. Suddenly, she notices that the light in one of the rooms is still on. Approaching the door, she announces her presence. From inside, her father replies, inviting her to come in. The girl enters his office and goes straight to get a cup of tea. Worried and sitting at his desk surrounded by paperwork, her father declares that she is still growing and can't train all day and night, and advises her to find a little balance. Soon, as the girl pours the hot water into the cup, she suggests her father be careful with the all-nighters, as she doesn't want to lose him when she is so young. Her father laughs and replies, remarking on her sharp tongue. The girl approaches with the tea in her hands, noting that her father likes his tea hot, but the tea on the table is cold. Looking at the paperwork on the desk, Xenia can see that it has something to do with the current families of the 8 greats, including the Liu family. As her father drinks the tea, the girl asks where he thinks they're hiding Lady Wu, mentioning that they've been searching for so long. Her father places the cup on the table and replies, stating that he wishes he knew the answer, and reflects that sitting there, enjoying the hot tea his daughter prepared, comes at the cost of Lady Wu Yue's freedom. Then he stands up and directs her attention to an image projected on the wall, asking if she recognizes the insignia on that vehicle. Xenia observes the image and identifies them as special transport trucks from the Celestial City, but notes that the footage is from the Exile Zone. Her father then explains that they intercepted this from the Exile Zone, and mentions that lately, the 8 families have been very active, constantly capturing black rings. He informs her that in just 2 weeks, they've captured more than 1,000. As it turns out, these children are being prepared to eliminate Lady Wu's generation. Back in the present, the blonde-haired guy, Tian, speaks, stating that they are being rude, ignoring their target. Yao Guang, kicking Tian in the back, questions who started rambling first. He then declares that he will take care of this, causing Xia Mei, a girl from the group, to raise her arm, placing it in front of Yao Guang and preventing his advance, stating that making him join the fight would be like bullying, and she doesn't want to see a beautiful woman meet a tragic end. Xia Mei then jumps and lands in front of Xenia, bringing her hand to her face and putting her hair behind her ear with a provocative and beautiful smile, stating that she will make sure Xenia dies beautifully. Xenia raises her chin and replies, asserting her readiness to see what the girl has got. On top of the container, the three continue talking. Yao Guang declares that Jichuan and their target, Shan Yue, are probably hiding inside. Thereafter, Tian curses them, calling them cowards. Yao Guang then questions if they should force their way in, but Tian suggests that they wait until Xia beats Xenia to exhaustion, and then they can divide the spoils at that moment. He claims Jichuan for himself and states his desire to see who is stronger, the man closest to a divine level or them, those who have consumed a divine level. Soon, inside the dome, the duel continues. Shan Yue rises to his feet, stepping on the debris on the ground while Jichuan watches him carefully. Shan Yue recalls thinking that his doppelganger was going to take over again, but realizes that thanks to him, now he can see everything so clearly. He notes that all the movements are converging before his eyes, like seeing everything at once and being able to understand. However, Jichuan, who is watching from the outside, just stares at him strangely and asks about his scary look, trying to understand the reason. Shan Yue continues to think to himself about his twin, deciding to give him a name, suggesting Little Black. As soon as that thought crosses his mind, his left hand slaps his own face, leaving Jichuan confused. Then another slap comes from his right hand. Jichuan, having no idea what is happening in front of him, asks what Shan Yue is doing. Shan Yue remains silent and thinks that it seems Little Black doesn't like that name. He then shouts, challenging Jichuan to throw anything at him, asserting that he can handle it. Jichuan accepts the challenge and launches a series of purple rays towards our protagonist. As he flees and dodges, Shan Yue reflects that there's no way he can dodge Jichuan's attacks with his original strength, but knowing his attack pattern in advance changes everything. He thinks that Little Black is right, that he is just an ant in this world. Shan Yue crosses his arms in front of his body, blocking the attack and jumping away. He asserts that without his 18 years of intense effort, Little Black wouldn't be there today, and thinks that he doesn't think Little Black is better at surviving than he is. He concludes that Little Black shouldn't just show up out of nowhere and belittle his existence like that. He adds that this is the first time someone other than Ah Chun has come to his side. Shan Yue hears Little Black's voice, speaking as his twisted shadow gradually appears. Shan Yue tries to ignore it, while on the other hand, Jichuan takes advantage of the moment of distraction and delivers a blow, kicking Shan Yue and exploding into multiple rays. Shan Yue is thrown back, raising dust, and breaking on the ground with his hands and knees. Reaching the wall, he looks up, wipes his face while leaning on the ground, and thinks that he will endure everything Jichuan can give him. Jichuan watches him with rays emanating from his aura, stating that Shan Yue's eyes are a bit strange. Shan Yue then stands up and advances toward his Jichuan, asserting that Little Black should just sit there and watch, as he will show how he grows. He attacks but is easily blocked by Jichuan, who creates a purple shield by raising his hand and preparing another attack. Shan Yue jumps and lands behind Jichuan. He quickly stretches out his hand to touch Jichuan's shoulder and attack him, but the Esper notices and turns quickly. He then grabs Shan Yue's wrist and throws him, with rays coming out of his body, immobilizing him on the ground with numerous purple energy chains. Jichuan then declares that Shan Yue wouldn't have dodged that if his Esper ability hadn't been activated, realizing that Shan Yue can see the future, causing Shan Yue to give him a mischievous smile. Outside, the two girls prepare to start their duel. Xia Mei addresses Xenia, asking her to answer a quick question before they begin. Xenia, with a weary expression, refuses. Mei gently insists that Xenia hasn't even heard the question yet. Mei explains that they have two tasks: to capture the divine-level descendant, Shan Yue, and to take Xenia's life. She expresses curiosity about why the 8 great families want the life of an advanced-level Esper, noting that Xenia is not even of special grade but just an insignificant silver ring. Mei wonders if they have some grudge against Xenia or if there is something special about her. Consumed by flames of rage and with an insane expression, Mei repeats the word insignificant. She acknowledges that she called Xenia an insignificant silver ring out loud. Knowing very well what she has done, Mei smiles. A pillar of flames crosses the field in Mei's direction, but she quickly dodges it by turning to the side. After a few moments of silence, Mei comments that Xenia just had to ruin the mood. Xenia, with an expression filled with murderous intent, declares that she is clearly aiming for Mei's head. Mei advances swiftly toward Xenia, stating that they should cut the crap and get this over with. Xenia cuts the air, creating a wave of flames, and thinks that Mei should show her what she's capable of. The flames follow Mei as she jumps from side to side, continuously advancing. As she approaches Xenia, Mei extends her hand, pointing out that Xenia's aim needs to improve, addressing her as a silver ring. Xenia looks at her angrily, and Mei delivers a kick. Xenia raises her arm to block the attack, but Mei extends her hand and touches Xenia's arm, causing small pink spheres to float from the touch. Xenia quickly steps back, and Mei launches another series of attacks. Xenia grabs the purple-haired girl's arm tightly, but Mei jumps and kicks her in the face. Xenia defends herself, but Mei crouches and touches Xenia's leg again, releasing small pink spheres from the touch. Mei jumps back, doing flips, and Xenia pursues her with her flames, which circle and attack Mei from behind. Somehow, Mei dodges with a smile and advances again, stating that she understands the uncomfortable feeling of inferior life forms. This time, Mei touches Xenia's shoulder again, releasing small pink spheres. Xenia expels Mei from close range by swinging her arm with her hairpin and orders her to shut up. Mei laughs while Xenia manipulates her flames. Even from a distance, Xenia can hear the sound of a gun being cocked. It appears that Yao Guang is aiming to shoot Xenia. She quickly turns her attention and raises her hairpin, creating a whirlwind of flames around her. The flames consolidate into pillars, breaking the ground in front of her and blocking the space around her. With a smile on her face, she declares her dislike for people who attack from behind, especially those sitting in the audience. Seeing the great pillar of flames rising to the heavens, Tian notes that she has completely blocked the view and comments that Yao Guang's little scheme has been exposed. Meanwhile, Yao Guang remains silent and only observes. Shortly after, he removes his finger from the trigger as well while lowering the gun. Mei continues jumping through the flames and advancing towards Xenia. On the ground, the girl jumps and touches Xenia's belly, releasing the small pink spheres once again. Approaching her face with a seductive smile, Mei comments on the two scars, suggesting there must be an unforgettable story behind them and expressing a desire to hear it. She then touches Xenia's ear, and it appears that she has stepped on a nerve of Xenia. A wave of flames suddenly cuts through the two, pushing Mei and Xenia apart. This causes Mei to lose sight of Xenia, leaving her wondering where she has gone. Then a new pillar of flames emerges, and suddenly, Xenia appears from within it. In shock, Mei turns around as Xenia approaches, asking if Mei has finished her last words. Xenia raises her two hands, concentrating her energies on her floating hairpin in front of her body, thinking that she wanted to buy Shan Yue time, but now she needs to finish this quickly because Mei has made her angry. A huge explosion of flames and heat occurs, centered on Xenia, who opens her arms with her black and red eyes. She advances with murderous intent, and Mei remains in shock, unable to react to the speed. A series of explosions followed, raising concrete and dust. In front of Mei, Xenia looks at her with superiority, asking how it feels to be brought down by an insignificant silver ring. Mei, now full of cuts and wounds, is bleeding while hugging her own body and kneeling on the ground. She breathes with difficulty and then laughs frantically, stating that this is what she is talking about. She remarks that it's been centuries since she has had so much fun, and tells Xenia that she is one of the strongest silver rings she has ever encountered, expressing that she likes her even more now. Xenia looks at her in silence and contempt, while Mei continues laughing with an insane expression in the middle of the flames. From above, the three continue to observe. The little girl proceeds to cling to Yao Guang, with a distressed expression, and addresses Xia Mei. Yao Guang reassures the child, stroking their head, explaining that this is how she likes to put on a show. Meanwhile, Tian questions the child's concern, causing the child to look at him with an annoyed expression, thinking how much he hates Tian. Tian then smiles and asserts that Xenia is already dead. In the control room of a Black Ring concentration center in the capital, a security guard announces they have lost the signal from security camera B3113 in the West Wing. Another guard responds promptly and acknowledges the task of checking the situation. Soon, the alarm is triggered and everyone goes on alert. The security guard in the alert room emphasizes caution, mentioning that the situation involves a child who has undergone a successful mutation. In the corridor leading to the mentioned cell, a pair of guards arrive and see that the door is made of glass. One of the guards tries to wake up the child by knocking on the door but receives no response. His colleague raises his silenced pistol and suggests entering to investigate. The two unlock the cell and lift the heavy glass door. One guard approaches the child lying facing the wall and attempts to touch the child's shoulder. The child wakes up, opens his green eyes, and leaps at the guard, grabbing his head. The other guard, pointing his weapon, questions the child's actions as his companion screams for release. The guard struggles to free himself from the child's grip, making it impossible to take the shot. The child demands the access card from the other guard, leading the guard with the gun to take out the card and offer it to the child. The child extends his trembling hand, but what follows is a sequence of gunshots and red splashes on the room's wall. Later, on a level below, the child's body is wrapped in a green blanket, while an employee waits for the elevator. Walking past other gurneys with wrapped bodies and children being dragged through the corridors, he continues on his way. In the corridors, children are executed at the slightest sign of escape. The bodies are transported without care. There, the elevator descends to the indicated level. Passing through the ramp, the employee takes the boy's body, which is face down. However, the face doesn't matter, but what matters is the number on the back of his neck. The children there are named as just numbers. The employee opens the green blanket and notes that it is another successful experiment. The coroner next to him reads the report and mentions that room B3113 in the West Wing is ill-omened. The guard turns and places the child's body inside the large box, lighting the incinerator that burns at high temperatures. He expresses frustration over the death of a successful mutant. The coroner, sitting down on a metal chair with slumped shoulders, comments on the non-stop burning of the incinerator for over a decade and the madness of the people there, killing without remorse. He reflects that the Black Rings were naive to think gaining powers would change their destiny and allow them to escape and be free. A Black Ring will always be a Black Ring, unable to escape its doomed fate. Back to the battle between Mei and Xenia. The field is burning with Xenia's flames consuming everything, turning it into a large open furnace. Mei, in the center of pillars of flames that trap her, approaches Xenia and observes her with a superior gaze. She challenges Xenia to use her precious ability and try to fight. Xenia pauses for a moment and looks at her more closely, noting all the scars. Mei, with a body covered in wounds and scars and a bleeding arm, raises her gaze and indicates that she has been using her ability. Xenia mocks her, waving her hand in front of her nose and making a comment about the air smelling of bad breath, implying it is Mei's special ability. The girl is shocked by Xenia's unexpected offense and audacity. Xenia then feels something changing in her body. The spots where Mei had touched are different, with the pink aura present again. Her bones and muscles, everything that had been touched, begin to react. A purple infection begins to spread, marking Xenia's veins and climbing up her body. She wonders how this is happening, causing Xenia to fall to her knees, flat on the ground, and release her hairpin. Her flames extinguish, and small pink flowers and butterflies emanate from her as Mei's power takes effect. Mei gets up with difficulty and approaches until she stands in front of Xenia. She kicks Xenia's hairpin and, panting, mentions that it is now Xenia's turn to kneel after making her do so for so long. Xenia struggles to speak, but along with her voice, a large amount of blood also comes out. In her mind, Xenia recalls all of Mei's movements and how she touched her in specific places during the fight and retreated. Laughing, Xenia questions if this is Mei's great power, making bodies go numb by touching people. Mei crouches down and sits in front of Xenia, touching her shoulder and clarifying that her ability is not just that. From the top of the container, Yao Guang observes and thinks about the immense power that Mei possesses. Mei now holds Xenia in her arms, with Xenia's skin becoming increasingly darker and covered by the purple infection, blood dripping from her mouth as Mei gently lays her rival's head on her. Yao Guang, lowering his gaze, acknowledges it as a deadly ability. He recalls the day he met Mei. The two were children sitting facing each other with guards cutting their hair, amidst many other Black Rings. They were just two more among many who would try not to die. Jets of water were thrown at them with hoses. Yao Guang covered himself, trembling, while Mei next to him trembled, covering herself even more. The guard in front remarked the marks on their skin, implying they were disgusting. Like other children, this made Mei cry. Other children crouched down, trying to protect themselves from the water, but Mei turned, and with a look full of anger and hatred, stared at Yao Guang, showing that she was not just another scared kid, and that she was ready to face hardship. In a large auditorium, the Black Ring children watch a lecture, surrounded by guards, while a woman speaks on the screen. She congratulates all of them selected to participate in the new Advanced Birth Project. This place is where Black Rings can change their destiny. These mutation experiments are meant to unlock their true potential, revealing the person they were always meant to be. This is their only chance to escape a life of mediocrity. The best successful mutations will qualify to enter the Celestial City. Yao Guang is sitting and watching when he turns to his blonde-haired friend and says that this is just brainwashing, trying to get his attention. But the boy keeps his eyes on the screen. Yao Guang repeats Tianlang, his friend's name, seeing that he is staring blankly at the projection, hypnotized, and that the brainwashing is probably working. Then, sitting a few chairs away, he sees a girl and immediately thinks about Xia Mei. Later, the children go to the cafeteria and pick up their trays with the day's meal. Suddenly, Yao Guang feels a hand pull him by the shoulder. Mei approaches, throwing herself at him with a knife and accusing him of staring at her, thinking she's some kind of monster. However, before the knife can hit Yao Guang, his friend stretches out his hand, cutting himself and preventing Yao Guang from getting hurt. The guard declares for them to stop making noise, shocking the girl in the neck and causing her to scream and drop the knife. Yao Guang asks if Tian's hand is okay, and Tian replies that it's fine. The guard then reveals that the experiments start in an hour, and they should save their energy for then and go eat their meal or something. Mei lies on the ground due to the shock, and the two boys remain standing, with Tian's hand dripping blood on the floor next to his friend as they listen to the guard speak. As soon as the guard walks away, Yao Guang crouches down and touches the girl's shoulder, asking if she can even get up. Mei abruptly gets up and shouts not to touch her, then runs away. At the time, her body is already covered in scars that are visible through the uniform. The two boys watch her run away, and Tian puts his hands on his head, saying that judging by her appearance and how she reacted, she was from the Fox group before coming here. He tells Yao Guang to stop staring, stating that he's hungry and they should go. Yao Guang just nods in agreement, and they follow. During the test phase, a liquid is injected into each child with a pistol syringe. Next, the guard yells, announcing the children to form several rows. There, Yao Guang encounters Mei again when it is time to return to the rooms and says that he thought she looked strong, so he stares at her and apologizes for touching her without asking. The girl looks at him in silence and turns around. Before entering her room, she tells him to survive. Yao Guang replies that he hopes they both get through this mutation. Meanwhile, the guards make their rounds in pairs. One of them yawns, indicating that he is already sleepy. In the control room, one of the security guards is sleeping in front of the security cameras. In the hallways of the rooms, a symphony of screams can be heard. The children throw themselves against the walls, against the glass, drooling. Mei is curled up on the floor, hugging her own body. In some rooms, the children levitate. Others consume themselves in fire. Others create infinite limbs, and others release lightning. But they are all in complete agony, going through the process of accelerated mutation. The guard is drinking a cup of coffee in the control room. It is already past 2 a.m. He orders the live audio to be muted, stating that the screams of these children are deafening and that his ears are going to bleed. After a few more hours, Tian shouts for Yao Guang, asking if he is dead. He shouts for Yao Guang for a few more moments, but he remains silent, lying on his bed until his eyes open, this time shining an intense yellow with a star, and then returning to normal. He answers that he is here, getting up with difficulty. As the two continue talking, Yao Guang responds in a louder tone, saying he is here and asking Tian to stop making noise, stating that he might die if the noise doesn't stop, and walks to the door. Tian happily smiles, seeing that his friend is fine. Yao Guang knocks on the glass and calls out loudly for Mei, asking if she is there. This causes her to give a thumbs up with her bloodied fingers. Yao Guang thinks thank God, seeing that she has also survived. Then he quickly turns as they have company. Two guards enter, saying that the results of this sector are exceeding expectations. They have 3 survivors, 310, 312, and 313. The guards enter the room and turn Mei, placing her on her back. One guard asks if she is the first girl to survive at this station, while the other confirms that she is. The guard looks at Mei with a lustful gaze and then gets up, saying to wait for him outside, stating that he won't take long. The other replies that they still don't know what ability she gained, and that now is not the time for that. The first one retorts, telling him not to argue and just wait outside. May gradually regains consciousness as the man is on top of her, panting and abusing the girl. The other waits in the hallway, ignoring what his friend is doing, pretending that none of this is happening or needs to be acknowledged. Tian plays with his powers, creating black flames in his room, oblivious to what is happening in the rest of the hallway. Yao Guang, on the other hand, sees everything from the front of the girl's room but is unable to do anything. Consumed by immense rage, he thinks that they survived, but nothing has changed. The guard then leaves May's room, zipping up his pants, and immediately his colleague is startled, asking what happened to his face and his neck. Without understanding, he touches his neck, which is now dark and covered with pink veins that extend across his face. Opening his jacket, he sees that a huge infection is spreading from his heart. The man screams in despair, and then, losing the ability to speak and breathe, falls to the ground. The other one shouts for reinforcements, indicating that they need help, while May watches her abuser fall lifelessly right in front of her. She then resolves that she will never be touched without permission again. To the misfortune of Xenia, who is now in her arms, May declares that all she has to do is touch Xenia's chest right there, and her heart will stop. May brings Xenia close to her with the same tenderness as bringing someone in for a kiss. Just like that, the infection spread through her body. Xenia's face becomes dark, consumed by the ashes of aging. Bringing her face close to hers, May says goodbye to Xenia, followed by Xenia dying peacefully. Han Yuli, the determined and spirited younger sister of Han Shu, found herself standing in front of the garage, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the area for any signs of surveillance. Spying a camera fixed on a pillar, she picked up a stone and hurled it toward the device with precision and force. However, her throw turned out to be more powerful than anticipated, not only hitting the camera, but also breaking the pillar it was mounted on. Startled by the unintended destruction, Yuli quickly rushed forward, her heart pounding in her chest, and caught the pillar just before it could crash to the ground. With a sigh of relief, she steadied the pillar and turned her attention back to the task at hand. The security system demanded a 6-digit code to unlock the garage door, and Yuli knew she had to act fast. She input the code twice, but each attempt was met with a cold, robotic rejection. Frustration bubbled up inside her as the system informed her that the next attempt wouldn't be available for another 10 minutes. Impatience and determination flared within Yuli. She had no time to waste waiting for the system to reset. Taking a deep breath, she drew back her fist and punched the garage door with all her might. To her astonishment, the door buckled under the force of her blows and swung open. Her knuckles throbbed with pain, a reminder that her wounds from a previous encounter hadn't fully healed. Ignoring the discomfort, Yuli pushed forward, reminding herself that there was no room for weakness now. Stepping inside the dimly lit garage, Yuli's eyes quickly adjusted to the gloom. She scanned the rows of vehicles until her gaze landed on a car she recognized. It was her brother Han Shu's car, a sleek and powerful vehicle. As she approached it, the scene shifted to a serene room where her mother sat in calm contemplation, being briefed about Yuli's actions. Yuli's intention to venture into the exile zone had raised concerns. Her mother, despite her outward calmness, was aware that Yuli was not authorized to use any of the cars in the garage. The maids around her exchanged relieved glances, thinking that this unauthorized use would halt Yuli's plans. But in a surprising turn of events, Yuli's mother made an unexpected decision. With a resolute expression, she authorized Yuli to use any vehicle she desired from the garage, trusting her daughter's instincts and capabilities. Back in the garage, Yuli's agile mind was hard at work. She wasn't just a brave girl, she was a little Einstein, always figuring things out. She examined the car's interior, searching for a way to start the engine. After a few attempts, she managed to connect the right wires, and the engine roared to life. The wilderness system, integrated into the car, announced its activation, startling Yuli for a moment. She realized that this car wasn't just any vehicle, it belonged to her brother Han Shu. Moreover, the system confirmed that Yuli was under 18, a fact that added a layer of tension to the situation. The wilderness system activated the autopilot mode, causing the car to move on its own. As Yuli sat back, she began checking her brother's phone for any useful information. She found the locations of 2 espers, and soon, the system detected a pre-programmed location, asking Yuli if she wanted to proceed there. To her surprise, it was the exile zone. She wondered if her mother had a hand in this. The system offered to change the destination, but Yuli, driven by her determination, refused. The car accelerated, and Yuli felt a surge of adrenaline. She asked the system to slow down, but it continued to speed up, informing her that it possessed extensive knowledge and was currently using driving skills for beginners at level 1.0. Back at House Han, the caretaker expressed concern over Yuli's solo journey. Her mother, lost in thought, recalled a poignant memory of spending time with Lady Wu Yue. The memory was bittersweet, filled with laughter and a sense of betrayal, as she remembered telling Wu Yue that she would hate her for eternity. Snapping back to the present, her mother reassured the caretaker, expressing her belief in Yuli's ability to make a difference. As Yuli's journey continued, the scenery outside the car windows transformed into a breathtaking display of natural beauty. Rolling hills, dense forests, and sparkling rivers passed by, providing a stark contrast to the turmoil within her. Eventually, the landscape shifted again, revealing a futuristic city bustling with activity. Tall, gleaming skyscrapers reached for the sky, and advanced technology was evident in every corner. Yuli marveled at the sight, realizing she had never seen such a place before. Despite the allure of the new surroundings, she reminded herself of her mission. The jurisdiction area had changed hands, now controlled by those with ill intentions rather than the people. Resolute, Yuli pressed the record button on her phone, broadcasting a message to explain her sudden departure and her decision to step in for her brother Han Shu. She couldn't help but wonder if her mother would ever apologize for leaving her without warning. Time passed, and Yuli kept an eye on her phone, hoping for a response. The system then alerted her to the proximity of the two espers, one of whom seemed to be closely connected to the wilderness itself. Confused and seeking answers, Yuli questioned the system about their destination, but received no reply. The car sped onward, carrying her toward an uncertain future filled with challenges and revelations. Yuli isn't the only one who hasn't received a response. The boy from earlier who drew the maze with chalk, Qixi, is using their chat group to communicate with the others. There, he addresses Yao Guang and mentions that he is done with the mission he was given. He continues talking but receives no response. After all, that's what it's like being a loser. No one talks to you. Qixi then notices that there's a feeling down his spine, and it has been there since he came here. He looks at the maze and sees that the stick figure hasn't even moved an inch so far. He begins to wonder how long has it been since he hasn't moved, when suddenly he senses something coming at him from the window. Qixi suddenly stands up, knowing very well that the thing coming is very dangerous. Suddenly, a flock of birds barges in from the window, shattering it, and catching him by surprise. He finds it impossible, but there seems to be nothing he can do now. What happens next takes him by surprise even more, and it is not sure how much more startled Qixi will get, but suddenly Josie comes dashing in from the window. With a shivering body and a trembling voice, he asks Josie how he was able to get out of his maze. Holding his sword tightly, Josie replies, and reminds the guy that he chose to ambush him in a factory district where there are no espers around. Turns out that our hyperboy, Josie, thinks that Qixi has an ability that relies on sensing esper energy. Now it has become clear that he is right. Josie then proceeds to place his sword on the left shoulder of Qixi to assert even more dominance, causing him to begin to show worrying signs regarding his sock puppet. At the same time, the flock of birds that flew in on Joshi's orders now fly away from the same window where they came in from. We then see a scene where a bunch of workers are sitting confused as there are numerous and enormous holes in the walls that are placed sequentially. Returning to the confrontation, Joshi tells Qixi that now it's his turn to ask the questions. He starts by asking him the reason why he is the only one here and wishes to know about the whereabouts of his other fellows. Furthermore, he inquires about the reason as to how the Black Rings can use Esper's abilities. Qixi then proceeds to show his villain arc by giving off a smirk, thinking that Joshi believes that he can easily intimidate him by placing a sword on his neck. Qixi is unwilling to give Joshi any information. However, when Joshi increases the pressure with his sword, the villain arc cannot be seen anywhere as Qixi agrees to answer all the questions. He slowly mentions that he will start by answering his first question, all the while moving his hand on the maze. The cunning son of a gun appears to have a trick right up his sleeves as he questions Joshi if he has enough time to listen to all the answers. Joshi side-eyes behind him and sees that the buildings around him have started to fall. Even the ground below Qixi separates from the platform. Thereafter, the guy questions Joshi if he is going to keep asking him questions or if he will turn his back and help the Black Rings. Qixi then makes a tick-tock sound just like those villains in the movies do, indicating that Joshi does not have much time left. Joshi wastes no time in running away to help his friends. Qixi then contacts Taya and informs her that he is coming to find her. Meanwhile, she is busy fighting with the robot, and she even appears enjoying it. At least someone is having fun in this impending situation. Taya believes that Chi-si is just being a coward and that he wants to run away. She then tells him to come if he wants, but advises him not to ruin her fun. Taya then diverts her attention back to the robot, questioning how long he can last. Meanwhile, the robot seems to be having a lot of system failures after getting a good beating from Taya. Meanwhile, Joshi along with his flock of birds is rushing to save the black rings in the building that's about to be completely destroyed. He sends the flock of birds forward to help save as many black rings as they can, and it seems that Joshi has a very high level of trust in his bird friends. We then see the inside of the building, which has succumbed to the destruction. The walls are cracked, the ceiling has fallen, and the pillars have been obliterated. A green ray of light flashes right in front of us, as Joshi quickly picks up a black ring that appears to be seriously injured after being trapped beneath a pillar. The green ray of light then goes around searching for more helpless black rings as Joshi begins to save them one after the other. Meanwhile, in another room, the door appears to be jammed and all the other exits seem to be blocked. The black rings realize that they have no way of escaping and are ready to accept their deaths right in that room. But then, a sound, a faint chirping reaches their ears. Hope flickers as the familiar flock of birds bursts through the jammed door, bringing with them the promise of salvation. The birds work tirelessly, pulling debris away and freeing the trapped black rings one by one. In no time, almost everyone has been saved. Almost. A woman's frantic cries pierce the air as she searches for her son, Xiao Chu, among the survivors. Her voice trembles with fear as she reveals that he is still trapped in the basement storeroom. Sound of a woman crying softly, mixed with the chaos of the environment. Her husband's voice is harsh, taunting her for bringing their son to such a dangerous place. But her reasons are solid. No parent would willingly leave their child alone in this exiled place full of criminals. Her tears fall freely now, each one a testament to the terror she feels for her son's life. Zhou Shi, ever the hero, steps forward. His voice is calm, steady, as he asks her to describe the exact location of the storeroom. With renewed determination, he rushes off, vowing to bring Xiao Qiu back safely. As he dashes into the factory, his bird companions follow closely, the bond between them unbreakable. At that moment, Yu Li, another ally, sends a message to their group chat, her tone laced with frustration as she questions what the others are doing. But there is no response. Zhou Shi's phone lies shattered, the battle having taken its toll on the device. The robot, locked in combat with Taya, is in no position to respond. Flame Girl, fighting for her life, has no strength left to even reach for her phone. As for our protagonist, he's not even part of the group chat, while the electric guy, well, his phone remains forgotten back in the apartment. Someone asks from behind a door blocked by a pillar inside the crumbling building if anyone is there. Water is rising, and a little boy lives on top of a table floating in the water. He realizes that if the water keeps rising, he will drown and must find a way to reach the first floor. Stretching out his hand, he tries to reach a hole in the ceiling that leads to the plumbing. Tears fill his eyes as he thinks about his mother still waiting for him. Taking a small jump, he grabs onto a stone in the ceiling to enter the hole, but the stone is already loose and cracks. The boy screams as he slips off the table, falling into the water along with the stones and cement. He swims, coughing and struggling to breathe, keeping his hand above the water as he gradually sinks, desperately thinking of his mother and shouting for help. Suddenly, something breaks through the door. A green ray appears, shattering the pillar blocking the opening. Zhou Shi enters the room and stretches out his arms, swimming toward the little boy who is already sinking. Moving gracefully through the water, Zhou Shi reaches the unconscious boy and brings him toward the light that pierces through the water. He places the boy on his shoulders and swims quickly to the surface. Outside, birds fly, and the sun illuminates the scene of destruction, while an anxious mother waits, clinging to a tiny hope. One of the birds notices something, and an explosion occurs as someone breaks through the debris. Zhou Shi cuts through the concrete, emerging from the rubble with the child in his arms, bathed in sunlight. Smiling, he asks the boy his name. The boy responds, saying his name is Xiao Chu. Zhou Shi strokes Xiao's hair and reassures him that he's safe now. The boy, grateful, calls him older brother and thanks him. Zhou Shi then proceeds to kneel down, touches Xiao's shoulder, and asks if he can make it to the open area on his own, explaining that he needs to leave. Xiao wipes his tears and confidently says he can do it. Zhou Shi strokes his hair again, stands up, and tells him he's very brave. The boy blushes, but suddenly a strong wind passes, and a green trail occupies the space where Zhou Shi had been, disappearing. Xiao searches for his savior among the rubble, confused. Meanwhile, on a bridge, the duel between a robot and Taya continues with quick and relentless attacks. The robot system issues constant notifications, detecting malicious external damage and providing reconstruction information. Taya strikes with her sword, and the robot blocks it, crossing his arms and locking eyes with her, repeating its primary objective. Taya pushes the robot away with her sword, laughing and acknowledging its toughness. In response, the robot projects its primary objective along with images of Shan Yue's mother and Shan Yue. Taya proposes to try something new, pulling a pistol from her thigh. The robot, identified as Sujan, warns her to stop the attack and leave, issuing a full warning with no more repetitions. Mockingly, Taya asks what will happen if she refuses. Sujan's eyes glow a brighter magenta as it declares that all espers except for Shan Yue and Lady Wu Yue are authorized for elimination. Sparks fly from his hand, but he quickly retracts it, looking frustrated as he notices a failure to activate the manual unit's energy core. Sujan extends his hand again, and levitation sparks shoot from his body, but the system reports a failure to activate the flight unit of the core. He keeps trying repeatedly, but each attempt results in the same alert. Activation failed. He tries a new repair command, but the system once again reports a failure. Frustrated, he commands the system to move, but the result remains unchanged. Sujan then acknowledges the failure to activate the energy core and initiates an analysis of the hostile esper's abilities. The girl laughs, pointing her gun at him, and mocks that she is his worst nightmare. A message appears before Sujan, revealing her ability as mechanical nullification. Another warning flashes as the system begins to fail, signaling imminent shutdown due to immobility. Taya fires at Sujan, tauntingly saying, "Pew pew robot," as the system counts down to a shutdown. However, just before he powers down, Sujan manages to catch the bullet in midair and crush it with his last movement. His eyes go dark, and his shoulders slump, with steam escaping from his back, leaving Taya shocked. She walks over to him, remarking that, as expected from Master Su's secret weapon, it wouldn't be an issue to take him apart for study. She begins to apply force to the hoses on his back, pushing him with her foot. Meanwhile, Yuli struggles with the car system, commanding it to open the door. The system detects severe signal interference and warns against proceeding further. Undeterred, Yuli orders the car to accelerate. As the car approaches the bridge where Taya and Sujan are, the system struggles to maintain automatic driving mode. Yuli exits the car, the wind blowing through her hair. Meanwhile, Leo restrains Shan Yue with his chain. He remarks that Shan Yue wouldn't have dodged if his Esper ability hadn't been activated, suspecting he can see the future. Shan Yue smiles at first, but soon his eyes widened in shock as he gets a revelation from the future. His face turned to sheer terror and worry as he warns Leo of impending danger, saying he's going to die. Leo, confused, pulls wax from his ear and asks what Shan Yue saw. The boy, head lowered, insists that Leo is going to die. Leo regards him seriously, doubting the claim, and remarks that it seems Shan Yue's ability hasn't fully awakened yet. Shan Yue, growing desperate, repeats his warning, insisting he saw it, even if for just a second. Leo remains silent before smiling, releasing the boy from the chains, and teasingly asking what they're waiting for. He walks toward the exit of the dome, lightning aura surrounding him, eager to see what's really happening outside. A man lying on top of a container watches the battle between Xenia and Mei in front of the dome, remarking how much of a mess it is. Over the radio, Tian asks what's happening. The man informs him that the fight has turned, with the girl wearing the silver ring getting destroyed, while the one with the black ring is toying with her. Urgently, he tells Tian to hurry, warning that something terrible is going to happen if they don't arrive soon. As Mei is about to touch Xenia, Tian reassures him to hang in there and hold them off, promising they'll get there as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Tian is in a vehicle throwing supplies as a desperate crowd with black rings follows, trying to gather food. The informant is incredulous, watching the chaos, as Tian's assistant uses a megaphone to announce that the Black Bear faction is distributing supplies at the shipping containers. The crowd becomes frenzied, with people shouting and fighting over the food. A grim-looking man with skeleton tattoos tells another with the same markings to check out the situation. The assistant, trembling with fear, warns Tian that leaking the location of the materials will lead to their older sister killing them and putting their heads on display. Tian calmly replies that it will be the assistant's head, not his, as he strokes the boy's head. The assistant nervously laughs, realizing their dire situation, joking that this has to be a dream. Meanwhile, Tien stressed, reflecting on how if Xenia, a high-level esper, is lost to someone with a black ring, something doesn't add up, and he begins to fear that they are all doomed. The assistant then calls out for the crowd to stay together, but Tien orders full speed ahead, leaning back and running a hand through his hair, muttering indifferently. In Xenia's final moments, Mei, with a faint smile, remarks that she has always believed the moment before death is the most beautiful, because it's the only time when things are fair. No one, not even the strongest esper, can cheat death. She then apologizes, acknowledging that Xenia no longer has the strength to speak. Struggling, Xenia manages to ask for Mei's name. Surprised, Mei leans closer to hear her and asks what she said. With great effort, Xenia asks for her name again, her skin now covered with pink veins and patches of decay as her vision blurs. Mei stands and replies that it doesn't matter, as Xenia is already dead, which becomes the last thing Xenia sees before her eyes close. In her mind, Xenia hears a voice calling her name, her father's voice. She calls out for him, finding herself in complete darkness, stepping on a tangle of red threads. Looking down, she notices one thread standing out, stretching from her feet far into the distance, and a memory surfaces of a house in the countryside, bathed in sunlight and surrounded by lush greenery. Xenia, as a child, lies on a bed covered by a blanket. Slowly, she opens her red eyes and sees the ceiling above her with a golden dragon symbol. Sitting up in bed, she rubs her eyes, trying to recover as sunlight streams through the window, touching her body. She notices bandages on her wrists and sees band-aids and first aid items on the nightstand. Reflecting with a sad look, she thinks she shouldn't be bandaged in the afterlife and realizes she has survived. Standing up, she walks to the nightstand and finds her broken hairpins, holding them with emotion, surprised they're still there. Suddenly, she hears voices outside. One voice asks if the vegetable garden was fertilized, while another replies that he was waiting for her to wake up so she wouldn't be scared if no one was around. The first voice accuses him of being lazy and barely touching the garden all week. Curious, Xenia peeks through a crack in the door and sees a woman with a silver ring pulling the ear of a red-haired man wearing a gold ring. The man laughs, saying she's fierce. Xenia is shocked to see a silver ring reprimanding a gold ring. Noticing her, the man smiles broadly and says she's awake. As Xenia approaches, still suspicious, the man asks if she likes gardening, raising his hoe. The woman scolds him to leave Xenia alone, saying she needs rest. Xenia thinks she's never seen a golden ring like his before. Pei Piran, the red-haired man, starts walking around with a straw hat and hoe, followed by Xenia. He boasts that he's a gardening specialist and says she'll see him at dinner, where he'll give her vegetables he grew himself. Xenia stops in front of a wheat field and asks why he saved her. Piran pauses, reflects, and asks if she regrets leaving the world so young. Xenia coldly replies that she has no reason to live. Saddened, Piran stops, takes off his hat, and turns to her, saying he never had children, and asks if she would like to become his daughter and part of the Pei family. He offers her the chance to forget the past and start a new life without fear, promising no one will know she's still in the Celestial City. He smiles, scratching his head, and adds that he's good at keeping secrets besides gardening. Xenia is surprised and asks if he isn't afraid she might bring trouble. Piran kneels before her and reassures her that if he was worried about that, he wouldn't have brought her there. Still carrying sadness, Xenia asks what he wants in return for his kindness. Piran smiles slightly and says that if he must ask for something, it's for her to protect someone, a child like her with unlimited potential in the not-so-distant future. The two sit in the garden, and Piran places his straw hat on Xenia's head, telling her to wear it since the sun is scorching, and to help him pick some bell peppers and cherry tomatoes, though Xenia quietly thinks they are her least favorite vegetables. She walks a bit further, holding the hat, and notices a small bloody bird fall at her feet. She crouches down, carefully holding it in her hands, and, feeling pity for the suffering animal, thinks to herself that it will all be over soon as she covers it with her other hand. Piran approaches and offers to take care of it, sitting beside her. Xenia hands him the bird, and Piran gently sets it aflame with golden fire. Alarmed, Xenia asks if he's going to burn it to death, but Piran, a bit embarrassed, reassures her that he's not. As Xenia starts to ask what he's doing, the bird begins to glow, and Piran explains that high-level espers can control various elements, but only a few can become great espers by mastering both sides of their power. As the bird regains its strength and flies away like a phoenix, Xenia, enchanted, smiles and asks if it's the fire of resurrection, wondering if the flames heal instead of burn. Piran chuckles and explains that his fire isn't exactly healing, but more like giving a boost, adding that fire can be both a destructive force and a source of life, depending on how it's perceived. A tree beside them catches fire, and Piran explains that fire, when embraced for its life-giving potential, can save someone even in their darkest moment, emphasizing that the true potential of an esper lies in the depths of their heart. Xenia, holding her hat, murmurs Heart of Fire, and Piran, smiling, adopts the name for the flame. As Xenia watches the bird fly away, she reflects that it's just like her, as they both got a second chance at life. Determined, she stands and declares that she wants to learn. Piran, serious, agrees, and leads her to a white room surrounded by porcelain, announcing it as her new training ground. Inside, Xenia shyly greets Jiman, a silver-ringed woman watching TV, and Jiman smiles at her after a brief silence. During training, Xenia sweats and trembles as Piran guides her to imagine the heat of flames, and a small flame appears in her hands. Smiling, she lifts her head, but Piran raises his hand to stop her and releases an explosion of flames, causing Xenia to complain about the heat as she shields herself. Piran apologizes, calming her as she recovers near the wall. Days pass with frequent explosions inside the training room, and Xenia repeatedly complains about the heat but remains determined. Piran acknowledges her persistence, reminding her that fire is not her natural element and that there are no shortcuts to catching up with others, only practice. More explosions erupt, more heat fills the room, and the walls of the training area begin to show signs of wear. Xenia, her voice muffled by the flames, replies with determination, and Piran shouts louder, trying to hear her amidst the fire. Days turn into weeks, and G-Man silently cheers for Xenia from outside as the explosions continue, deepening the craters in the ground. Piran advises Xenia to let her body get used to the pain of burning, and as weeks turn into months, G-Man watches with hope, silently encouraging the girl's strength. Piran asks G-Man to bring lunch to the training room when it's ready, and G-Man, carefree, assures him she'll deliver it on time while watching her dramas on TV. Xenia, now more determined, often marches through the house, but Piran and G-Man, engrossed in their TV shows, barely notice her. When Xenia announces she's going to train, they are too absorbed to respond, and Xenia, annoyed, tugs at her father's collar, demanding he come train with her, dragging him away as he protests, trying to watch the end of his soap opera. Days of training pass, and sometimes Xenia finds G-Man asleep on the couch in her scorched clothes. Xenia, in a quiet gesture of kindness, covers her with a blanket, and Z-Man, half awake, praises her for her efforts, to which Xenia softly replies with gratitude. More weeks of training follow, and Xenia eventually smiles when exposed to Piran's fire, realizing the heart of fire truly works and that nothing hurts anymore. Piran, smiling affectionately, pats her head and warns her not to push herself too hard, reminding her that even without mastering the heart of fire, she can still become an exceptional esper. Though Xenia feels some sadness at the thought that the heart of fire may be something only special-grade espers can achieve, she insists on continuing her training, and Piran promises to keep teaching her. New days of training come, with Xenia now training even at night, running through the fields under the moonlight, facing wind and rain. Despite G-Man's shouts to take breaks, Xenia presses on, training even while eating and attempting to form a flame underwater during her bath, which prompts G-Man to call out, worried about her overexertion. More days, weeks, and months pass as Xenia pushes herself harder, whispering words of encouragement to herself as she tries to ignite a flame before sleeping. One night, an explosion happens, and Xenia runs out, calling for Zeman to grab the fire extinguisher as her bed is engulfed in flames. Over time, the training room becomes equipped with several extinguishers, and Zeman, after lining them up, comments that they should be enough. The days continue, and Xenia begins combat training with her father, repeatedly falling to the ground but struggling to get back up, determined to try again. The flames often consume the room, and Xenia's body becomes calloused from the effort, sweat pouring down as she fights through exhaustion. Each time she falls, she pushes herself to rise again, her resolve growing stronger with every repetition. Xenia's intense training is matched by her growing relationship with G-Man and Piran. G-Man, initially awkward in her interactions with Piran, often hesitated between formal and informal addresses, unsure of how to speak to him. But Piran reassures her to call him whatever feels comfortable. Nowadays, when the training room catches fire during intense sessions, G-Man rushes in with her extinguisher, calling out to both Xenia and Piran, no longer out of obligation, but out of genuine friendship. In the dark, someone warns Xenia to be careful with the candle. Suddenly, 2 flames light up, revealing the number 10 on top of a cake covered in whipped cream and strawberries. Xenia looks confused, struggling to comprehend the meaning of the celebration. Piran cheerfully tells her it's been exactly 1 year since she came to live with them, and that they made her favorite strawberry cake, though G-Man remarks that it might actually be Piran's favorite. Piran brushes off her comment, still smiling, and both he and G-Man pop their confetti launchers, showering Xenia with colorful confetti, while wishing her a happy 10th birthday. As Xenia watches the confetti fall, Piran presents her with a small red box containing 2 red hair sticks, explaining that they are replicas of the ones she always carried, made by the best blacksmith in town after much pleading. He asks if she likes them, but Xenia, lowering her head and speaking seriously, vows that she will protect the child she promised to safeguard. Piran, smiling, tells her that the gift is actually for her to protect herself and urges her to take it. With a sad look on her face, Xenia remains silent, but G-Man also encourages her to accept the gift. Just as Xenia is about to take it, G-Man starts disappearing before her eyes. Panicking, Xenia screams for her, falling to her knees and begging her not to go. Piran too begins to vanish, telling her not to be afraid and that it's just an illusion. Despite his reassurance, Xenia frantically tries to reach him, calling out the word Dad as he disappears, leaving only his eyes for a brief moment before they too vanish. Desperate, Xenia collapses, crying and pounding the ground, repeating no as black strands wrap around her, lifting her into the air. She screams, refusing to let them take her, running with all her strength to reach the gift box. Finally, she grasps it, clutching the red hair sticks to her chest, now no longer a child but a young woman fighting with her last breaths. Confused and disoriented, she sees the hair stick transform into the red thread she had seen before, and she falls to her knees again, overwhelmed by the experience. Xenia screams at the top of her lungs, gripping the thin red line emerging from her with all her strength. She presses her chest and clings to the line, which ignites into a flame. Her father's voice echoes in her mind, telling her she is a force of nature, like a wildfire that cannot be contained. Clenching her fist, she tightens her grip, intensifying the flame, and her father's voice declares that her destiny is now in her hands. Rising with a brilliant glow, Xenia holds her lifeline firmly. Her father asks what she thinks of her new name, and she replies that she likes it, igniting her fist with intense flames and showing a determined and cold expression. Meanwhile, Mei, with her back to Xenia, who is kneeling behind her, asks Yao Guang if he wants confirmation of death. Suddenly, Xenia tries to alert her by screaming her name, but a hand grabs Mei's ankle by surprise. As she turns in confusion, a bright light erupts, followed by a devastating explosion that sends everything flying. Fire and dust scatter stones in the distance. Inside the dome, Leo and Shan Yue feel the tremors of the explosion, and Shan Yue comments that Xenia may have started fighting. Leo replies in agreement, while Shan Yue, distressed, thinks he can't let Leo die because of him. Leo, sensing his thoughts, tells him not to imagine his death. Surprised, Shan Yue wonders how he knew, but Leo declares that the only person capable of killing him is already dead. Outside, Mei is thrown by the explosion, but Yao Guang jumps to soften her impact as they hit the wall. He asks if she can still stand, and Mei, despite her burns and blood, replies that she can, and chides him for interfering. Yao Guang apologizes while still helping her. From within the spreading flames, a female figure emerges, walking through the fire with grandeur. Xenia, wiping her face, steps forward and demands to know the name of the opponent who put her in such a pathetic state. Yao Guang and Mei look at her in disbelief, stunned that she survived. They had never seen anyone escape Xia's deadly trap, which relies on surprise. Once her opponent understands her tactics, she loses her advantage. For Xenia to escape, she must be incredibly skilled, leaving Yao Guang to wonder how someone so powerful could be just a silver ring, speculating it might be related to why the 8 great families are targeting her. Mei, determined to return to the fight despite her injuries, pleads with Yao Guang to let her go, but he refuses. Yet something shifts in his eyes as he watches her break free, walking toward the flames with a smile on her bloodied face and flowing hair, unwilling to abandon the battle. Xenia hears an eerie voice telling her to go. This voice turns out to be of none other than Mei. She mentions how she understands Xenia won't find peace until she gives her an answer. This time, May asks Xenia to make sure that she remembers it this time. With a smirk on her face, May reveals her full name, but this doesn't impress Xenia at all. She tells May how she is acting too normal, stating that this type of behavior doesn't suit her. Realizing that her act is no longer a secret, May acknowledges Xenia's smartness for paying attention. She then suddenly feels pain in her open wound, causing her to hold it tightly. May feels like every single part of her body is about to break. This moment should be making her extremely sad, but that doesn't turn out to be the case. In fact, May is feeling rather happy about her situation. Xenia then explains to May that it's because of her that her chest is still aching, so she suggests wrapping all this fiasco as quickly as possible, since she does not want to look like a beaten-down coward in front of Leo and Shan Yue, with the former being a special case for her. The scene then shifts to a journalist who asks the cameraman to hold the camera steadily and point it at her. The journalist then begins her job and starts sharing a live broadcast while being at the Leo family manor. The journalist explains that a sudden man-made thunderstorm is being experienced by them, which has caused interruption during the interview. She then asks the cameraman to move the camera toward the center of the downburst. The cameraman confirms from the journalist if she wants him to point at the dark spot in the middle of the devastating thunderstorm. The sight is simply spectacular. The entire area is covered in dense clouds. A purple stream of energy is being flown all around the center of the downburst, and the lightning is showcasing its true colors in its full form. As the camera focuses on the center, we see Leo Chuan being elevated up in the sky. The journalist quickly realizes that Leo is a descendant of the divine tier and believes that he might become the next divine tier. Moreover, the true form of power of Leo is clearly displayed, which can be seen by anyone in the vicinity. Soon, all the journalist's focus is shifted when Lady Wu Yue arrives. She explains that since Leo is very strong, what he wears does not at all matter to him. However, the journalists are confused. They seem to have no idea what Lady Wu Yue is talking about. One of them questions her about why she thinks the rings exist. Meanwhile, Wu Yue begins walking toward the journalists, prompting them to make way for her. While taking a walk, she explains that the rings exist for those that are within the walls. Furthermore, she remarks that these rings exist so they can exploit and oppress others with no restriction, and that is how they seem to have gained control of most of the resources in this society. Wu Yue reveals that as long as these rings exist, twisted desires and nonsensical killings won't stop. Moreover, she believes that the rings are the biggest form of lie ever created by a minority. She doesn't even seem to care whether Leo ends up becoming a divine tier or not. All she hopes is that he will be smart enough to break out of here, which she thinks is better for him rather than becoming the next her. Somewhere else, a lady, Qing Dai, expresses her thinking that their divine Lady Wu Yue is a bit naive since she places her hopes in breaking the rules in the hands of those who literally benefit from them. A ghost then reminds Qing Dai that she is a bit naive as well. This makes her believe that the ghost has taken offense to her talking against Wu Yue. However, the ghost reminds Dai that they answer to Lin and not Wu, stating that he doesn't care whether she badmouths Wu Yue or not. Furthermore, the ghost also reminds Dai that someone who has tasted freedom in this world would never want to be caught up in a cage ever again. The ghost even places the bitter truth in front of Dai, telling her that she cannot beat these espers and monsters as they are fundamentally different. Geniuses like Leo Chuan are exceptional cases because they push their powers to their limit, which allows them to constantly evolve. But the outcome for Dai's monsters who misuse their abilities is only one, and that is death. Dai then grows frustrated by the ghost's constant annoyance and tells him how she mentioned earlier that she needed more time. She further tells the ghost that his only job was to stall those idiots on the council, and he couldn't even do that. Now, he is lecturing Dai and making funny comments toward her. Seeing that she overreacted, Dai quickly calms down and apologizes to the ghost, stating that she lost her temper. The ghost then points out to Dai that she is acting unusually strange today. After thinking for a brief period, the ghost inquires to Dai if she managed to find the special one. Moreover, we see a photo frame of the 5 that has been sent out to hunt the special one. In that photo frame, May's photo appears to be covered with blood, indicating that her demise is near. The scene then transitions to the ongoing fight between May and Xenia. May seems completely exhausted as she tells Xenia that she is not ready to finish the fight yet. Meanwhile, the little boy and Tianlang watch this from afar. Tianlang realizes that May has no intentions of coming back, while the little one insists he save May and make her come back. Keeping his emotions in control, Tianlang snaps the boy back into reality and asks him to realize already that May doesn't want their help. At the same time, Yuan Guang finds it difficult to see Mei suffer on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Mei gets up on her feet, and the entire section of her area is covered with beautiful flowers. Seeing this, Xenia finds this to be tremendously spectacular, but feels apologetic about the fact that this moment isn't going to last very long, as she is determined not to lose to the same person twice. The moment she said that, a burst of flames started engulfing the flowers and everything around it. A large group of people approaches in a commotion, heading toward the container area. Above them, Mei's petals and butterflies are already visible, falling gracefully. Tian's henchmen announce to the crowd that they should follow him, as he will take them to the supplies. Everyone continues walking while a child stops in the middle, looking up in awe as petals fall from the sky. A butterfly flutters toward him, landing on his hand, and he marvels at it. Meanwhile, Chuan's purple dome remains strong and sealed. Amidst the chaos, smoke rises to the sky after the garden fire, and it becomes clear that Xenia is lying on the ground, questioning aloud what she is seeing. Something large, a giant, jumps ahead, making the ground tremble. The little plush bunny of the child accompanying Tian, Mei, and Yuan has grown, multiplying in size, and is dancing, singing happily while the little boy laughs. He pulls the bunny by the arm, making it return to its original size, and runs toward Yuan, who has picked up Mei in his arms. The boy asks Yuan if Sister Mei is alive. Yuan replies that she is still alive and apologizes to Dudu, admitting he has asked too much of him. He then asks if Dudu is hurt anywhere. The little boy hugs the bunny, assuring Yuan that he is fine as long as Sister is okay. The three approach one of the containers, and Yuan takes out a phone, sending a message to Qi to find them in the exile zone immediately, stating that Mei is seriously injured and needs treatment. He emphasizes the need to return to the lab as soon as they finish the main objective. Tian looks down and expresses how unpleasant the situation is. Yuan turns to the little boy and instructs Dudu to go check on Xenia. Suddenly, a voice shouts nearby, close to the containers. The two turn and see a crowd of black rings approaching, running and shouting for people to get out of the way and move aside, so as not to block the way near those black rings. Tian's henchman goes to one of the doors and tells the crowd to stop pushing and crowding. The crowd argues, demanding the door be opened and insisting they were there first, telling others to move aside. People push Dudu, and again the henchmen shout for them not to push and ask if they can line up properly. Yuan grabs Dudu, who almost stumbles backward. The crowd advances desperately, while Tian watches from atop the container. For a moment, he tries to call them but receives no response. They are all transfixed. The henchmen climb onto the door, thinking to himself, hoping not to be noticed. Below them, the rush and confusion of people crowding continue. He shouts, asking them why they are all standing there, pushing, and if they want to die. Finally, he manages to open it, revealing a container full of supplies and food. Everyone surges forward, fiercely grabbing everything they can carry and more, shouting in excitement about the free food, claiming it as their own. Some stuff pieces of bread into their mouths right there, while others tuck them into their clothes. Yuan sees a little boy picking up some wrappers. He notices Mei's wounds and begins to approach. Yuan quickly raises his hand, stopping the boy and asking what he is doing. The boy then extends his hand, revealing a small candy in his palm, suggesting that if Mei keeps the candy in her mouth, her wounds won't hurt as much. Yuan looks silently, not understanding the simple act of kindness that could only come from a child. Suddenly, the brief calm is interrupted by a kick aimed at the boy. A man approaches, throwing him far away, while others fire their weapons into the air, declaring that no one should take any food and warning them not to think about taking a single bite, as all these supplies are now under the control of the cannibal gang. The tattooed man who has kicked the boy begins to kick him more and more, demanding that he spit it out. Yuan stands up and walks toward him. The man pulls a gun from his waist, aiming it at Yuan and telling him to take his food and get out of there. The man aims the gun at him, placing the barrel right in the middle of his forehead and stating that he knows exactly what Yuan is plotting. He orders Yuan to put his hands up and turn around, asking if he is deaf. A voice breaks the silence, and with a single word, everything changes. Eyesore. As soon as this is pronounced, the man explodes in blood and flesh before Yuan. Everyone present turns, seeing the blood splatter on the container, and atop it is Tian, with a murderous and serious look, surrounded by particles of blood, repeating his command, eyesore. Yuan begins to wipe the blood from his face and arms. The little boy nearby stammers, wondering aloud if Tian is an esper. He looks at him in shock, and then all the black rings present throw the food into the air, celebrating the arrival of their savior. Tian and Yuan are left speechless, trying to understand what all of this means. The little boy approaches Yuan and, with hopeful eyes, asks if he is there to save the exile zone. Yuan questions the boy, still unable to believe the reaction, but Dudu interrupts the interaction, shouting to Yuan that the mission target has disappeared. Yuan turns and curses. Running between the containers, Chuan is carrying Xenia on his back, commenting on how miserable she looks and asking how she has gotten such a beating. Xenia maintains her pride intact, even exhausted, laughing as she replies that he should see the other girl, noting that if he had arrived a few minutes later, she would have cleaned up the mess herself. He laughs and comments that she is still talking tough, huh? He continues running until she tells him that they have gone far enough and asks him to put her down and hurry up to get out of there. But he replies with a smile, telling her it is fine and to listen carefully. That is the sound of the barrier deactivating. Chuan's purple dome is slowly dissolving, fragmenting piece by piece. Tian watches from atop the container as Chuan appears with Shan Yue, walking toward everyone and asking what all the commotion is about. Shan Yue looks around and remarks that he can't see Xenia anywhere. Chuan responds, reassuring him that Xenia knows how to take care of herself. Tian raises his voice, and with a challenging smile, teases them, asking if they have been locked up for so long because they were crying or something. Several swords made of steel and blood rise into the air, floating toward Chuan and Shan Yue. Chuan smiles and says that the one who should be crying is Tian, causing an explosion of lightning around him and throwing everything into the air. The black rings begin to run in despair, shouting that there is an Esper fight and that everyone should run for their lives. Meanwhile, atop the container, Tian stands with his hands on his hips, laughing and commenting that it's better to get out of there, as this is no ordinary Esper. He bursts into laughter again, then addresses Chuan, saying they have finally met after Chuan kept him waiting for so long. Yuan looks up and calls out to his friend, as if he wants to say something, merely uttering his name. The fact is, he thinks to himself, if they face Chuan now, there's no way he can keep Mei safe. Beside Mei is Dudu, who looks at Yuan, calling for his brother, as if also trying to convey some kind of plea. Yuan finds himself caught in a dilemma until he receives a message from Chi Si, stating that the special tier has been neutralized and that they will arrive in a few minutes. He smiles as if a light has turned on, and then raises his voice to Chuan, stating that they have no intention of starting a direct conflict. He adds that as long as Chuan hands over Shan Yue, they will leave immediately. He explains that the superiors are feeling generous and will not hold the Liu family responsible, but warns that if Chuan refuses to hand over the child of the divine, he will be declaring war on all 7 major families. Shan Yue is shocked to hear that. Declaring war is more than he had imagined. But Chuan seems prepared. He positions himself in front of Shan Yue, saying that they should go ahead and declare war if they want. He asks if they think he is there to play house, and says he would expect at least a little gratitude from them, noting that they, of all people, should know whose child Shan Yue is. Shan Yue doesn't understand, and questions what Chuan means by gratitude. Chuan glances sideways, thinking of that ability, and in his memories, he sees Wu Yue, Shan Yue's mother, with the same black swords of steel and blood floating around amidst corpses, warning others not to come any closer. Still not turning, he explains to Shan Yue that any black ring still able to use their abilities is only alive because they are feeding on the blood of Lady Wu Yue. Shock takes hold of Shan Yue, and he repeats the phrase, asking if they are feeding on her blood. Tian laughs and says that the child of the divine doesn't understand, asking if Shan Yue wants him to draw it out for him. Chuan and Shan Yue both shout for Tian to be quiet, as if they are saying they are having a private conversation. Shan Yue turns to Chuan and asks if he is saying that their abilities came from his mother, and questions what else he doesn't know. Chuan begins to explain, admitting that he doesn't know that much. He recalls that at the time Lady Wu Yue was captured, the Lin family proposed researching her immortality ability to extend the lives of other espers. Each family, except the Leos, sent an advanced level esper to participate, but the experiment failed. The 7 who participated received Lady Wu Yue's blood, but instead of gaining immortality, they became neither human nor ghost, barely surviving. After that, the laboratory decided to change focus. Instead of a few powerful espers, they experimented on the Black Ring population, a much larger and easier group to control. He admits he never thought those people would actually manage to succeed in this way. Dazed, Shan Yue asks where the laboratory is, suggesting that Chuan must have researched it. Looking down, Chuan replies that there is nothing, explaining that it's like trying to find a ghost with no traces. Shan Yue repeats in disbelief that there is nothing, and he begins to think. In the ranking of the 8 major families, the Leo family holds the 3rd place in overall strength. After 2 generations of turnover, they have never left the top 3. Despite being the 3rd most powerful family, even knowing his mother's situation, the powerful Leo family can neither track her down nor do anything, only standing by and watching. He wonders what kind of power the City of the Celestials possesses and questions if Chuan, Xenia, and the other guardians protecting him make them enemies of the City of the Celestials. He asks himself if this is the enemy he's facing. Shan Yue imagines his mother trapped, chained inside a cage, and clenches his fists in anger so tightly that when he opens them, there are blood marks where his nails have dug in. Chuan looks at him and tells him not to let them shake his determination, explaining that the reason these people have been sent is to get into his head and break him, as that's their entire game. He adds that no matter what rules govern this world, it's up to their generation to break them. Shan Yue replies that rules or not, he doesn't understand any of this, and frankly doesn't care. He explains that he keeps dreaming about her and that she is waiting for him. No matter what he has to do, he is determined to get her out of there. Chuan smiles and comments that Shan Yue isn't even close to being ready for that, but since he said it himself, they will make it happen. Speaking of which, Shan Yue looks with a threatening gaze and declares that those people probably know where the laboratory is and suggests they grab them and make them talk. Chuan smiles sadistically, stating that is exactly what he's thinking. Tian rolls his eyes, not believing what he is witnessing, until a woodpecker passing by catches Yuan's attention. The bird flies by and lets out a loud poop from above. Shan Yue shouts, pushing Chuan to watch out, as if something terrible is about to happen, but it's too late. The droppings hit Chuan's clothes. Chuan looks down, along with Shan Yue. A vein bulges in his eyes as he grits his teeth in anger and curses. Zhou's voice then emerges, responding and asking if someone is looking for him. Dudu, Yuan, and Tian turn around in concern, noticing the presence of someone unexpected. Chuan is filled with rage, and Shan Yue is surprised as the robot Zhou and Yuli appear on the battlefield. Back when Xenia is barely holding on, Zhou Shi jumps between buildings, surrounded by his birds, when he receives a message from Yuli in the group chat. She introduces herself, stating that her name is Yuli. She is 14 years old, and she is the younger sister of Han Shu. Due to some unusual circumstances, her brother couldn't come, so their mom has sent her to support them. Zhou grits his teeth and thinks to himself, "You have to be kidding me." Then he turns to one of his birds, asking where Yuli is, and instructing it to point him in the right direction. Meanwhile, on the bridge, the car spins as the system repeatedly announces that Wilderness cannot continue on autopilot. The car is about to flip over when it finally stops, right near the edge of the bridge. Taya has no time to react. All she sees is Yuli flying toward her, warning her not to think about hurting him and throwing a punch. The girl would have been hit, but she herself doesn't react and finds herself being dragged as a voice comments on how close it was. Turning around, she sees Chi-Si, the boy who creates structures, holding her and advising her not to just stand there waiting to get kicked. The two support themselves on their knees and take a deep breath. Chi-Si has raised a stone wall between them, blocking Yuli's path. Taya asks if the opponent is just a little girl, and Chi-Si confirms that she pretty much is. On the other side, the so-called little girl is continuously punching the concrete wall, breaking it more and more. She opens a hole and thinks that it is too close. The robot that has been turned off starts to spark and suddenly sits up, announcing that the system is back online. She turns to the robot and asks if he is okay. The girl approaches, smiling at the robot, and he takes her hand, calling her Han Yuli. She scratches her head, saying she is fine, and that just Yuli is fine, as being called by her full name always makes her feel like she is in trouble. The robot kneels down, scans the area around them, and then advises her to watch where she steps. On the other side, Taya and Chi-Si are arguing. Taya insists that she isn't running away, and that she has the robot totally under control, adding that all they need to do is team up and take down the girl. Chi-Si replies that if he had arrived a minute later, she would have been in trouble, emphasizing that staying alive comes first. He touches the ground, creating a wave of energy, and then, in front of them, the bridge splits in two, launching concrete into the air. The robot places Yuli on the bridge railing and tells her to hold on to him, which she does desperately. He ejects hooks from his back and anchors himself in several places, holding the car as well. Part of the bridge falls into the water, creating a tragic scene as chunks of concrete hit the water one after another. They are barely keeping safe amidst it all. Yuli looks around and comments that they are stuck in the middle. The car begins to slide, and the bridge cracks further. The robot analyzes the structure and declares that the bridge is severely damaged and will collapse in 1 minute. He explains that if he gets within the control radius of that woman, he will be forced to shut down. He reassures Yuli that their powers will not pose a threat to her and tells her that he will throw her to ensure her safety, instructing her to find a safe place to land as she only has one chance. The robot secures hooks around the girl's waist, and she confidently agrees, acknowledging the plan. He activates his thrusters, taking off and stating that they are ready to go. Yuli remains in position, thinking to herself to stay as steady as a rock, until the robot system throws him back to the ground, noting that the load capacity requires improvement. He falls awkwardly and admits it was his fault, explaining that he has forgotten about it and that it is a long story. Yuli laughs too, feeling awkward, and scratches her head. More water points burst as the bridge cracks more and more. Everything is collapsing and sinking. The car announces that Wilderness hates water and urges them to think of something fast. That is enough to prompt Yuli to look excitedly at the robot and inform him that she has an idea. The robot replies, acknowledging that there is another way to get across. Taya hesitates to leave, wondering aloud what they are planning, while Chi-Si pulls her by the arm, admitting that he has no idea. He looks to the other side of the bridge, feeling that anxious sensation again, and tells her they need to get out of there. On the other side, the car is accelerating at full speed. Yuli is driving while the robot is on the roof of the car with his hooks attached, asking if she is ready. Yuli steps on the gas harder, confirming that she is ready. The bridge begins to collapse more, sinking. She floors the accelerator, and the robot points his hands at the car, charging his energy waves and preparing to fire. He declares the command, charge, and fires a blast that creates a boost, which, combined with the car's speed, propels them through the air toward the other side of the bridge. The bridge disintegrates as they soar. The car announces that Wilderness is afraid of heights, and Yuli shouts back that now is not the time for that. They fly toward the other side while Taya and Chi-Si run, trying to get as far away as possible. Taya looks on in disbelief, expressing her disbelief that they will make it and telling them to go to hell. She activates her ability, shutting off the car's engines. Yuli screams, calling out to Wilderness, as the robot also powers down and detaches from the top of the car. They fall, heading straight for the water, and Taya laughs as Chi-Si urges her to leave, until something feels different. She looks incredulous, and Chi-Si shouts desperately for them to run. The concrete pieces are enveloped in green energy. Joe has appeared, crossing the space of the bridge and cutting through both several times. He sheathes his sword and smiles sweetly like a guardian angel, as he turns to see the car being lifted by a tornado made of green energy. Yuli holds on to the robot, congratulating everyone on a job well done. Yuli ties up both Taya and Chi-Si, pulling the rope tightly and warning them not to try anything sneaky. She adds that if they use their powers to escape, she'll knock them out for a week. Even while tied up, Taya yells insults, accusing Yuli of being arrogant, and threatens that once she's free, she'll use Yuli's blood for a bath. Chi-Si, clearly bored with Taya's shouting, asks if she can stay quiet for a while. The robot beside Yuli suggests gagging Taya and Chi-Si, and Yuli responds with a cheerful thumbs up, agreeing. Just then, Joe calls Yuli's name, and she turns around, smiling, but notices his concerned expression. She asks him what's wrong. Joe praises her for doing well, but advises her to turn back now, saying this is as far as she should go. Yuli looks at him with wide, surprised eyes, and a memory surfaces in her mind. She recalls a snowy day playing rock, paper, scissors with her brother. She wins the game, and feeling triumphant, runs up the stairs to a snow-covered temple, calling her brother a fool. Her brother, smiling sweetly, follows her, warning her to be careful as the snow is slippery. Inside the temple, Yuli notices someone kneeling in front of a Buddha statue, deep in prayer. She hesitates, feeling as though she shouldn't interrupt him. Her brother approaches her, smiling, and suggests they go say hello to Uncle Joe. She hugs her brother, signaling him to be quiet, and he asks if something is wrong, suggesting that instead of calling Joe Uncle, she could call him Big Brother. Her brother Shu goes over to Joe, kneels beside him, and places a small box of vegetable buns on the ground, pushing it forward as an offering. Joe, still with his eyes closed, pushes the box back, thanking Shu but saying he can't accept it. Shu pushes the box forward again, smiling, and explains that even though the buns were made by his mother, they were a gift from Auntie to his family, so he thinks Joe would appreciate them. He adds that the cold weather made him worry about Joe. so he decided to bring the buns, certain that Auntie would have wanted him to share them with Joe. Finally, Joe opens his eyes, takes the box, and acknowledges that Shu has won this time, admitting that Shu came all that way just to bring him the vegetable buns. Shu joins him in a prayer position, playfully telling Joe not to flatter himself, explaining that wasn't his only reason for coming. He mentions he wants to speak with Master Shan Ji. Joe asks if that isn't him, making Shu laugh. After a brief silence, Shu tells Joe he is considering stepping down as a guardian. Joe's eyes widen in surprise, and Yuli jokes that he looks terrified, admitting she is only teasing. Joe, turning serious, asks Shu why he'd joke about such a thing. After a pause, Shu reveals that Yuli's powers are fading. Joe repeats the words, trying to process them, and Shu explains that every night after sunset, Yuli loses her powers, becoming no different from an ordinary person. Both of them know that Lady Wu Yue was targeted because of her immortality, as greed drove the wars and conflicts. Now, with Yuli's powers vanishing without explanation, Shu fears that if others learn of this, she could face unimaginable torment. He worries she might suffer the same fate as Lady Wu Yue, or become another victim of endless conflict. Joe, sensing Shu's anguish, begins to say his name, but Shu continues, explaining he has already made his decision before coming here. Shu explains to Joe that the prophecy is still 2 years away, and before then, he's determined to find out why his sister Yuli's powers are fading. He asks Joe to keep it a secret, promising that if he discovers the cause, he'll continue his duties as a guardian. Watching Yuli play in the snow outside, Joe asks Shu what he'll do if he doesn't find the answer. Shu says he'll give up his role as a guardian, take Yuli far away, and doesn't mind being called a coward. To him, the child of divinity is just a stranger, and he just wants to protect his little sister. The young Yuli, noticing how serious her brother and Joe look, smiles as a woodpecker brings her a tissue she wished for. Shu and Joe come out to see her, and Yuli, in her cheerful way, tells Joe they're leaving, calling him brother. Shu teases her, reminding her there's only one brother for her, but Joe allows her to call him Big Brother. Yuli playfully pushes her brother away, calling him a fool, while Joe and Shu look at each other with concern. Joe tells Shu to stay safe, and Shu silently agrees. As they leave, Shu asks Yuli if they're going straight home or somewhere else. She blows her nose and suggests they go shopping. Joe watches them go, with Shu's words echoing in his mind. Seasons pass, and one day, the woodpecker brings a letter from Shu to Joe, asking him to look after Yuli. Back at the bridge, the robot tries to communicate with the car system, Wilderness, asking it to be quiet and tapping the car's hood as he notices a tense conversation nearby. Deciding not to interfere, he gets into the car. Meanwhile, Joe looks at the horizon and tells Yuli and the others they'll have to leave through a different gate this time. He instructs them to stay in touch until they're safely home. As he turns to go, Yuli grabs his arm, asking if he even sees her as a real person, not just as Shu's younger sister. She says she understands the dangers of fighting and has thought carefully before coming here. She declares herself Han Yuli, a special grade Esper, and says she wants to take on her brother's role as a guardian. In that moment, Joe sees a reflection of his younger self in her, remembering when he too wanted to take on a role for his older sister. Yuli, determined but with tears in her eyes, says she's not the little girl she once was. Joe gently holds her shoulders, asking her to promise to be by his side every day after sunset. In his thoughts, he speaks to his hospitalized friend, hoping this will be enough to care for her. In the car, Wilderness questions if the robot overheard their conversation, to which he replies he hasn't, though Wilderness calls him a liar. Yuli, Sujan, and Joshi make their way inside Wilderness. They then activate its autopilot mode, but Wilderness quickly deactivates it, mentioning that it doesn't want to drive anymore. It further mentions how it almost drowned and asks the three if they don't care about its well-being at all. Yuli then comments that it's fine as they can just drive Wilderness as manual since Joe is there, who stands ignorantly, not knowing how to drive. Later, Sujan ends up becoming the driver. There, Yuli finds out that Sujan has internet in his brain, finding it impressive, and believes that he is like a walking supercomputer. From the back seat, Joe holds Chisi's phone, asking John to unlock it for him. In response, John turns around, telling Joe to leave it to him, making Yuli worried as he is not focusing on the road. The scene then shifts to a guy talking to a golden ring who is bathing. He finds it disappointing that Chichingdai spent so much of their money into making these trash. This person's ability seems to be of clairvoyance. the Golden Ring then mentions that the scene the patriarch has been waiting for hasn't played out yet. He further reveals that the patriarch handpicked these 6 people himself. Moreover, he believes that there is definitely something more to these 6, since the patriarch never acts with certainty for no reason. Thereafter, the Golden Ring grows a bit furious, thinking how the patriarch never shares anything with him. The guy sitting on the couch then orders for the mirror to be removed from this room and have someone keep an eye on those 6 people. The scene then shifts to Yuli and co-approaching Shan Yue and Liu Chuan. Thereafter, John comments that Shan's body has no significant abnormalities, and the mental state is relatively stable. On the other hand, Shan and Chuan are totally surprised to see these people, including a minor, Yuli, there. On the battlefield, Tian faces Chuan and Shan Yue. Seeing them, there is clearly a killer intent in the eyes of Chuan and Tian. Meanwhile, Yuli notices Shan Yue and realizes that she has finally met the person her brother always wanted to protect. Thereafter, Joshi prepares himself, asking Yuli to take care of the 2 captives, and asking Sujan to assist Yuli. At the same time, Chuan pushes Shan into the dome, telling him that it will be safe for him, and continues to make his way toward Tian. Before leaving, Chuan even assures Shan that he is going to be back in a flash. Seeing an opportunity, Tian quickly uses his black dust to free Qixi and Taya. As the dust continues to spread in the area, it reaches closer to the captives. However, Joshi is quick to react and slashes his sword to knock back the dust. Thereafter, Sujan partakes in keeping the dust away as well. Yuli notices the dust reaching closer to Taya and continues to knock it back as well, telling Tian that he is not going to free them no matter how hard he tries. At the same time, Chuan continues to make his way closer to Tian while using his magic. The dust seems to be having no effect on Chuan as he effortlessly keeps on destroying it. As Chuan bravely makes his way to Chuan, he is not surprised at all, believing that this much was expected from Chuan. Tian then openly challenges Chuan to bring it on as the 2 prepare themselves for a fearsome fight. Meanwhile, Shan stands inside the dome, with the black dust surrounding him. He stands there completely helpless, with nowhere to run to. As he silently watches this scene unfold in front of him, Shan Yue realizes that he is useless right now, since he cannot do anything. The battlefield is lit up with powers being used all over the place. Chuan and Tian are both going hard against each other, with Chuan showing the upper hand. He even asks Tian to use all of his tricks and be done with it, since he doesn't have time to waste for these useless gimmicks. Moreover, Chuan comments how his time is really valuable, but this only adds flame to the fire for Tian as he grows furious. With the fight growing more intense, Tian once again uses black dust to distract Chuan. But he quite easily finds a way to overcome it. Not only that, Chuan also uses his magic to knock back Tian and show him how it's done. With a smirk, Chuan remarks, telling Tian that he cannot fool him with his ghost-like dust. Seeing that he is distracted, Chuan tells Tian to keep his eyes on him. He then proceeds to rush toward him, punching him brutally as Tian tries to defend himself. But his defense proves to be useless, as he gets knocked back into a wall, destroying it in the process. But with this blow, Tian ends up suffering a serious injury as he gets a metallic rod pierce his abdomen. Angry at himself, Tian realizes that he hadn't put all his focus on the black dust. Then he could have defended this attack. Taking the metallic rod out of his body, Tian shows great sign of courage as he stands with a brave heart, looking up in the sky where Chuan is flying. Seeing him, Tian thinks that he is going to let Chuan enjoy this moment of triumph. Meanwhile, Chuan looks absolutely determined to deal with Tian right at his moment. On the other hand, Qixi and Taya notice Yuli and Sujan being completely busy in dealing with Tian's black dust. They decide to take this opportunity as escape, but as they start to leave, Yuli notices them. She immediately grabs the rope, feeling disappointed that the captives are playing dirty. She then begins pulling the rope, telling them that she is not going to let them escape on her watch. As she continues to apply some force, Yuli suddenly feels an immense pain in the wound on her right shoulder. Worried, Sujan tells Yuli that she has a serious puncture wound near her right shoulder, asking if she got it from the bridge. He even asks Yuli to unbutton her shirt so he can heal her quickly, but Yuli refuses. Tying the rope from her waist, Yuli continues to show courage, telling John not to tell anyone about this until this fight is over, and until they have taught their enemies a lesson. Seeing determination in her eyes, John is left with no choice but to comply, telling Yuli that he respects her decision and assures that he is going to keep this a secret. The two then decide to end this fight as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Joshi notices that Shan Yue is all alone, standing on his own. He decides that he should go and keep check on him. Simultaneously, the black dust continues to spread all over the place, with Joe finding it difficult to make his way closer to Shan Yue. Inside the dome, Shan Yue's alter ego appears, deeming the situation as pathetic. He tells Shan how Chuan looks down on him and reminds Shan that Chuan has trapped him in this enclosed area, with nowhere to go to. Moreover, Shan's alter ego even points out how Chuan has left him there as a bystander, and asks Shan if he doesn't want to prove these people wrong. Emphasizing further, Shan's alter ego believes what he is saying is right, and that he can end this pathetic situation all on his own. However, Shan Yue speaks up, telling his alter ego that Chuan didn't shape him into anything. Instead, Shan acknowledges that he is the weakest person in this place right now. However, his alter ego is confused if Shan is actually proud of this fact. Furthermore, Shan points out that he is also their main target, which is why he needs to stay safe. But it is not certain if Shan actually believes what he is saying. He understands that he is the weakest link here, but people still focus on taking on the stronger opponents head-on, leaving him all alone, realizing that it's foolish. All of a sudden, Shan starts feeling something strange. He cannot point out a single thing but understands that there is definitely something wrong. There, he sees Chuan, realizing that he is really going to die. But Chuan is not sure if he should trust what Shan is seeing with his eyes, so he tells Shan to open his eyes wide and take a closer look. Moreover, Chuan even asks Shan to stop talking about death and jinx him. As Shan suffers from this dilemma, he is suddenly thrown into some sort of a basement. There, the alarm starts blaring off. After coming back to his normal state, Shan confusingly analyzes the area around him, but he seems to have no idea where he has ended up. The surrounding walls are cracked, broken, and have blood splashed all over them. Shan begins wondering where he is, causing him to take a look at his hand as he feels there might be something on it. Seeing his hand, Shan notes that it is covered with black dust. Not only that, the entire area seems to be covered with black dust. Shan Yue wastes no time in realizing that he must have entered some strange space, because he is not entirely familiar with how to use his powers and have no control over them as of now. He understands that he needs to quickly find a way out of here. After beginning to look around, Shan spots a young kid sitting on top of a bed, with his head down on his knees. Shan calls out for the boy, warning him that this is an Esper zone and that it might be dangerous for him. Shan then begins making his way to the boy, concerned for his safety. He quickly grabs his hand and begins pulling him off of his bed, but the boy remains unmoved. Shan tries his best to save the boy, but he doesn't respond to anything and stays with his head down. Shan then starts getting annoyed due to the alarm's constant blaring, but then it suddenly stops, leaving Shan confused. Thereafter, the boy speaks his first words, telling Shan Yue that he must have great strength, since he has managed to make his fifth into the layer of his consciousness. The boy realizes that Shan is not as weak as he seems. Confused, Shan lets go of the boy's hand, stepping back, asking the boy who he is. Looking up at Shan, the boy's eyes shine brightly as he introduces himself as Yao Guang. With a gently smile, Guang asks Shan to remember his name. Meanwhile, Shan is surprised to see that yellow eye color. The boy then tells Shan that they are both the children of divinity, which is why he has asked him to remember his name. Grabbing Shan's hand, Guang suggests that they go somewhere else to speak calmly, as he doesn't like lingering around. Unwilling, Shan asks him to hold up, as he wants to gain more information out of the boy. But it's already too late as the boy teleports himself along with Shan to an almost empty room, with only a few stuff placed in an unorganized fashion. This place looks like to be an abandoned warehouse. Assessing the place closely, Guang realizes that this warehouse is the safe haven for Shan in his consciousness. Guang adds that this place is no different from the place in his consciousness, explaining that it is an enclosed area in a square-like space, like a box for storing toys. Furious, Shan clenches his teeth and asks Guang to get up from the couch that he is sitting on, or at least warns him not to touch it. All of a sudden, the room is surrounded with blue colors as Shan encounters a past memory, hearing gunshots. Snapping him back, Guang apologizes for stirring up bad memories and suggests that they go somewhere else to talk. Grabbing his hand, Shan abruptly asks Guang what he is doing with his eyes, but the boy comments that he has no idea. However, Shan immediately catches his bluff, telling him that he is lying and speculating that he might be keeping him here to stall for time. Moreover, Shan has even realizes that the place before wasn't Guang's consciousness, and that this place isn't his consciousness either. However, Guang continues to fake his actions, innocently telling Shan that there is no reason for him to trap him there. Shan responds, mentioning to Guang that he is trying to trap him because he knows that Shan is the only one who can see past his illusions. Continuing to grab his hand, Shan tells Guang that he is not sure what his powers are, but mentions that he is going to trust his other senses, if what his eyes see isn't real. Shan recalls about the gunshots that he heard, the smell of blood that he smelled, and that metallic tang of hydroxide. He realizes that it wouldn't be hard for Guang to know about his past, since he is his enemy. Moreover, Shan insults Guang for going so low that he has to create a place based on his memories. Accepting his defeat, Guang finds it impressive that Shan caught on quickly. He then asks Shan how he found this out. With a hint of laughter, Shan takes his time and reveals that his safe haven is long gone. He then realizes that he needs to tell this truth to Chuan and others as soon as possible. Back on the battlefield, Chuan and Tian are going back and forth with each other quite efficiently. The black dust is stilling surrounding half of the area, whereas Chuan's purple energy force is surrounding the other half. There, Shan quickly snaps himself back to reality. Looking at the two fight, Shan tells himself that what his eyes see isn't real at all. Closing his fist, and with determination, Shan continues to move forward, stepping out of the dome with one of his legs. The black dust quickly entraps Shan, making it difficult for him to move forward. However, Shan stays unmoved. Continuing to tell himself that none of this is real, he continues to push himself further, wanting to break through this illusion. Meanwhile, the other 6 people look at Shan Yue with strange expressions, calling his name out one after the other. Like the video, hit subscribe and drop a "Let him cook" in the comments if you want more.